Welcome to Truth Uncompromised. I am your host, Rhonda. Join us every Thursday at 7 p.m. Eastern Time. Truth is peace. Truth is justice and freedom to love, live, and be. Music provided by SourceVibrations.com.
Friday. Oh, uno.
I am love. I am peace. I am free. I have abundance. I have everything within me. For I was, for I am, for I will always be. We are love. We are peace. We are free. We have abundance. We have everything within us. For we are, for we will always be. For Mother Earth is love. For Mother Earth has peace. For Mother Earth is free. For Mother Earth has abundance. For Mother Earth has everything within her. For she was, for she is, for she will always be. And so it is spoken. So it has been written, and it is done.
All right, family. Welcome to the Truth Uncompromised show. I am your host, Rhonda, and tonight we have a great show planned for you. We are actually doing part 2 from last week, The Myth of Slavery, Betrayal, and War. So this particular show, we are going to pick up where we left off, reading the book 103 Facts About the Black Indian. I also want to go into some more clips with Chief Langley Speaks, and then I also pulled some clips. We have been talking on her, so I wanted to pull some clips on Chief Warhorse as well, and then a couple of other articles that I pulled. So with that said, excuse me, I am going to bring on my co-host. So let me bring on Brother Sean. Peace and love, brother. How are you?
Peace and love, sis. I'm well. How about you?
I'm good. I'm well. Good to hear your voice.
Likewise.
Okay.
Likewise.
Okay. Let me bring in Sis Sandra. Here we go. Peace and love, sis. How are you?
Well, peace and love to you, sis. I'm fine. Thank you. And yourself?
I am fine. Can't complain at all.
And you, Brother Sean?
I'm well, sis. How about you?
Good, thank you. Good.
Good.
To jump in? Feet first.
I know, right? So, okay.
Right.
So, real quick with the go ahead on with the fuckery. We're not gonna get into it because we got so much stuff to cover. But as I know, a lot of you are aware what's been going on in the news. It's been one event after another. Now, not coincidentally, and we'll talk about that. And the only reason I'm going over it because it ties into what we're talking about tonight. It's all of these headlines are all involving melanated folk. Okay, so literally every other day this past week, since we met last Thursday, it's been a headline news with a melanated person in the headlines. So, started with the Starbucks shit, was supposedly and allegedly, brother walked into Starbucks, he didn't buy nothing, he got arrested. Then it was some sisters on the golf course, they got the law called upon them. Then you have Kanye, huggy, kiss, poo, poo, Trump card. Then, right before we jump on the air, they pulled out the big guns with Cosby being indicted, or not indicted, found guilty on 3 of the charges, okay? So I'm saying all this to say, family, none of this is a coincidence. All of these headlines, hopefully we have realized by now and enter and understand that any time you get coverage across the news stations, that there is a reason behind it. And I found it particularly interesting that over the past 7 days, it's only been melanated people in the headlines, and it's all regarding around quote, quote, race or classification, which is what we've been talking about. Now, again, from a spiritual perspective, we've talked on this. The energy on this planet moves particularly well through melanin. It is an excellent conductor. Okay? We are in some serious energy changes that are going on, which is what they'll never come out and tell you what the real story is. So it's either one or two things going on, or it's probably a combination of both. Okay? It's to generate energy from particularly melanated folks to cipher. Okay? Second point is to keep folk distracted from the huge surge of energy that is hitting the planet as Mama Earth continues to correct herself. We talking serious energy here, and folks that are in tune and close to the energy and what's going on with the planet, we feel the shit on a regular basis, okay? This one brother, I was so glad for him to say this right before I jumped on the air. He said, you know what? The sun has went through a shift. He said, I can feel it. The last time I felt this way was around 2009. And so I said to him, wow, brother, that's interesting that you say that because, I know I've been feeling for a while that a huge surge of energy coming in. And as a matter of fact, when I was driving in this morning, I was able to have the privilege of seeing the sun, and the real sun at that. I could tell the difference when they throw that fake ass light up there versus the actual real sun. And I looked at it, I said, the sun looks different today. Something is going on. Okay. So somebody came, then people started coming behind us in the comments stating, "Oh yeah, it's definitely a huge surge of energy going on." Okay, so I'm saying that to say, family, nothing moves on this planet unless it is conducted through energy, through melanin. The ones behind all these false fucking flags, all of this political bullshit, these narratives, they do not have the energy enough to move things on this plane. They can only work it through you. Okay? So I'm saying all that to say, be careful and mindful of what you tie up your energy and your emotions into. Anything that they're putting on that television, you better second guess that shit and kind of take a step back and think, okay, now what's really the motive behind this? Because it truly cannot be face value on what they're talking about. So I'm just going to leave that right there, but just know that they're going to keep putting before you the race issue, because it is cleanup time on this planet. And as I've talked about before, everybody must return, and Brother Sean actually hit this out the park with this. Everybody has to return where they are from. Okay? So I'll pause in case somebody want to put something on it, and then we're going to jump right into it.
What I noticed, Rhonda, is that as soon as we start taking center spotlight, Macron, the French president, spoke to the Senate. And they're trying to steal some of the energy back by saying this is the new world order. We're going to get rid of we're going to set up the liberal nationalism and no freedom. We get rid of all of that kind of stuff. And I said to myself, what are you saying, really? You know, because they have been presenting themselves as these strange entities that come from other planets, and the news that, you know, other people say they're shift shapers, or they're the dragons. But, you know, when it all comes down to it, they're just little teensy-weensy folks, just like anybody else.
Right.
They have less energy and less clout now than they had before, because they are bickering so bad between themselves, they're showing themselves as human. So, therefore, they have flaws that people are seeing, and now they're trying to steal back some of that energy that they are manufacturing for us to believe that they're above, they're demigods. That's basically what I'm saying.
Right.
And so we now are focusing, and the ethers are saying, hey, wake up, children, wake up.
Right.
You are the originals. Wake up. This is your land. Wake up before they take it. And so they're trying to, you know, balance out what's happening now with this Macron stuff and all this stuff with these justices, FBI investigations and all this kind of stuff. And so I believe there's a serious shift for us in the positive.
Yeah.
And we need to take advantage of that and listen to what the earth, Mother Earth, is trying to say to us. We are the indigenous, the aborigines of this planet and of this plane over here. So, but they're losing. They're losing miserably. They couldn't even pull off that Syrian fake thing. You know, some
Yeah. What happened to that? That proves to you that they're scrambling. Yes,
they're scrambling. You know, you douse with some chemicals. You think somebody gonna go in there and touch you without gloves on, without masks on? Because they gonna get burnt too.
Yeah.
So why are you tending these people all hurt, and you're not even protecting yourself to keep from getting the transfer? Please. really. And so our people, this is our rules. Keep your eyes off that TV. Turn it off. And tune into your own energy because they're trying to siphon it again. Mm-hmm. They're trying to take it. And our spiritual eyes need to be open to see this game that they play. Yeah. I tell my son, stop looking at Syria. Stop looking at Israel. It's over here.
Right.
They want this place. They don't want that desert over there.
Right. Right.
So they play these games and they're going to take this person out of power, that person out of power. They probably don't even have any oil in the gold in the house. Who knows? They're fighting over it, all this kind of stuff. But what they're really doing is aiming to come over here. And you can tell it because China is sneaking their way in here. And all these immigrants wants to sneak their way in here. And if we don't pay attention to our ancestors talking to us, we're going to let them sneak their little ways in here. And so we need to keep focused, turn that TV off. Don't listen to Beyonce and, is that her name? Yeah, Beyonce and this other stuff going down in this movie about who's sleeping with whom and a brother, big brother. Oh, that stuff is just wasted distractions. Don't care about who shot whom. It's not for us to pay attention. They're trying to get your attention back. They're losing.
Right. Right. Absolutely. Very, very well said, sis. Brother Sean, you have anything you want to put on it?
Yeah. It doesn't matter what they try and do.
No.
It's over.
That's right.
Yeah, it really is.
It's not about them scrambling. All they doing is putting on the performance of a lifetime. Their very existence is on the line.
Yes.
So everything that they're doing is a distraction.
Right.
Period.
I agree.
It don't matter if you're talking about music, sports, the news, whatever.
Right.
If it ain't about you,
don't pay attention.
At the end is a distraction.
That's right.
Right. That is right.
That's simple. I mean, they either got to go back or perish. I mean,
I agree. I
your
1,000%
brain,
agree.
Your brain can't exist in your foot. I mean, Mama had them in a certain area for a certain reason.
Right, for a reason.
They vibrate at a certain frequency. They vibrate at a different frequency than we do. That's why we were so susceptible to their diseases. Because it's a different, lower frequency. It's nothing that we're naturally aligned with.
Right.
There's many reasons that they got to go. And they don't plan on staying here. That's the mistake a lot of people are making. All they want to do is come over here and take all the natural resources and turn this into a desert like they done their homeland.
Desert. That's right.
Now, that you hit on the head, Brother Sean. They really not intending to stay. That's another game within the game. I totally agree with you.
And everybody worried about these immigrants or whoever that they bringing in here. They bringing them in here to do the work that we ain't gonna do, as far as the tearing up mama and this, that, and the other. So, as far as I'm concerned, they all got a heavy debt they got to pay for their ignorance. You should have stayed at home and fought for your land. You shouldn't have dug up all the minerals and everything in your homeland.
Right.
Your ass is unwelcomed here. And there's some things waiting on you. That ain't slick. There's enough of us woke to bring about what y'all need. And it's coming. It's happening right now.
Yes, it is. Yes, indeed, Brother Brother Sean. Indeed. And great segue into a follow-up. Now, I'm minding my business, and I forget where I got this information from. I think it was one of the sisters on Facebook. I can't remember right now, but she had posted where Trump card is cutting off the aid for the $5 Indians.
We told her that last week. Remember that?
We said it was coming. We said it was coming. We just spoke on the shit last week.
Yeah, we did.
So basically, we're seeing this stuff unplug, and this is one of the reasons why I am suggesting to the family that you look behind what the fuck they talking about, because they're putting it in plain sight what's really going on. So he pretty much was saying that, damn, I can't find the article, y'all, so I'll just have to talk through it. But he pretty much is pushing through some legislation that they can no longer draw Medicaid. So messing with their little medical and a couple of their other benefits. So, of course, the ones on the reservations, and by the way, just to be clear, the ones that's classified as Indians on those reservations, they are federally recognized, okay? So, which don't mean shit. It just means that that's who the corporation decided to recognize as the indigenous, which was stolen identity to our ancestors, okay? So they struck a deal with them. And as always, they got screwed over royally. Now, you do have some that's been making out pretty good, but that's all of the corporation, the politicians, buddies who have been making out well with the casinos. And that's one of the reasons Trump card, and I know y'all are going to know what I'm talking about. When Trump card had his casino in Jersey, he testified before Congress because he was pissed that he couldn't get the same breaks, financial breaks, that these quote Indians were getting. So he basically testified before Congress, busting them out in their shit, telling them that you're giving people the status of an Indian, and they're not Indian. Because he literally said, quote, they don't look Indian to me. Okay, now this was years ago when he had his casino. So fast forward all this time to where he's playing his role, because at the end of the day, he is playing a role. Let's be clear. He's not here to be your savior. He's just playing a role. So fast forward to today, he is putting through legislation for the reservations to not get those quote benefits. And one of them was Medicare. So, or Medicaid, whatever you call it. I don't know which is which. So the folks on the reservation and their representatives are pitching a fit. So in other words, saying, oh, y'all owe us this. We're supposed to have this. Woo, 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 woo. And he's basically saying, I don't care what you say or who you think you are, you're getting cut off. So I'm saying all that to say, if they are really who they claim to be, number one, whatever land they give them, they snatch it up when they feel like snatching it up. Now, whatever benefits they're claiming that they were supposed to naturally get, that is being taken away, okay? And this is all because they have documented very well, the corporation has documented very well that those that they have given the status of Indian under that federal recognized tribe they know that it's false, okay? So, again, pay attention to what's going on all across this planet. Folks are getting their notices that they have to go back to their native land. That's happening in Africa. Israel has done it. The UK has done it. Over here, it's probably going to be the last place it's going to happen, but it will happen. And as Brother Sean said, they already know that it's going to happen because they know what the prophecy says, okay? So I just wanted to give you all an update on that just this week, Trump card is cutting the benefits for those that are on those reservations recognized as a federal tribe. Okay, let's see where we want to go here.
Hey, sis.
Go ahead, brother.
All those federally recognized tribes are corporations because none of them hold the true Aboriginal names.
No, they don't. Excellent point. Thank you for that. Did you want to explain a little more? If not, I'll go into it because that's an extremely important point, brother.
The fact that the corporations, they renamed everything and everyone, and you registered with them as a corporation. That's why they have privileges. They didn't have rights. That's why every time the corporation wanted to do something, they did it. They ain't caring about them people out there protesting. That was just another damn distraction.
Absolutely. Which is why they can never take it to the United Nations.
No, because all of they people in there too, all the Mongoloids and Indo-Europeans all off in the United Nations. That ain't got nothing to do with us for real. They all in on it because they all trying to get over here.
Right. And
you
that is
ain't
very
nothing
true.
but a big guy.
It's very true, but I just still found it interesting that after all of the crap that they pulled, that the federal recognized tribes, when they started all that land grabbing, they never took the shit to the United Nations because they knew.
Oh no, because they still control that land. They just letting them sit there. You know, that's your little hush money. Just sit there and shut up and pretend like you the Native Americans. And that's all you do. You don't get involved in politics, nothing. You just shut up. They start talking a little too much, acting like they had rights. So they like, I'm going to show you, you don't have rights. I gave you privileges. You acting like you got rights, so now, bitch, sit down.
Well, you know that Dakota pipeline that they ran, that shows you that they weren't even important because they were arresting them, and I think they were shooting them and everything because they said no.
Trying to mess up our land. They don't say nothing about them. They trying to mess up our land.
Yeah, and they said they're going to send that through no matter what. They're supposed to send that all the way to the Caribbean. And so we as people need to wake up and claim what's ours because they're going to do it. They're going to walk over them and destroy the property, the land. So
I'm sorry, sis. I didn't mean to cut you off.
So that Dakota pipeline is a bad thing for us. It's bad for the land. But they don't. Those $5 Indians, they don't have any right to even holler.
No. Well, the flip side with the land, with them, calling themselves destroying the land, all of that's going to cease anyway. And to be honest, I think it is ceasing because the way Mama Earth is shifting is so unpredictable anyway.
Right.
So they can fuck around and dig if they want to. They don't know what's going to happen. She could open up and sinkhole they motherfucking ass. You just don't know what's going to happen. So the days of them destroying the land, that shit's pretty much a wrap. Because, to be honest, they already destroyed it to the point that brought us down to the lowest vibration any damn way. When they took down those silicon trees, the big, huge, gigantic trees, we're not just talking about the Caucasians doing that, because you had to have knowledge. Let's be honest. You had to have knowledge on how to do that, what those trees represented. So it was dirty, melanated people behind telling folks what to do. Okay, so Mama Earth already destroyed. Yeah, exactly. That happened before them. So she was already destroyed. Okay, so there's really not much more destroying that they can really do. They already know that. So, they can go on and try if they want to. That's going to be their ass, but, hey, that's not my problem. But in the meantime, those that are aware, that's your responsibility to keep the vibration, your vibration, and create the world that you want to live in. Because, as Brother Sean said, it really ain't fucking about them at the end of the day. So, but very, very good point, sis. Very good point. Okay, so, sorry, I'm working on like 2-3 boards because it was crazy tonight. So, trying to get on the air. Okay, so I had an article, and we talked about it last week. We've been talking about this quite a bit, about how as the cleanup process is happening, meaning Mama Earth shifting to higher frequencies, so from a physical perspective, we are seeing that happening, as well as a spiritual perspective. And a part of that cleanup is karma. So we've already talked about the opioid problem, or heroin problem, that we saw, that we are witnessing, rather, this time swinging around, is hitting the Caucasian race pretty hard. And I also ran up upon an article, if I can damn find it, and I might have talked about this last week. If not, I'll just have to talk through it again, where that same heroin epidemic has hit, once again, the reservations. I can't find it. I just had it, family. Damn it. Okay, well, anyhow, this particular article was talking about that the heroin problem has hit the federally recognized reservations so hard that now they're in a crisis where the children that are born of the parents that are strung out are basically going to grow up without their parents. Okay, so they're kind of calling out the same federally recognized tribes that, by the way, supposed to be a sovereign nation. Okay, they're supposed to be sovereign. Okay, and that's another thing that came out this week in that article when Trump card was stripping away their Medicaid or Medicare. He basically said in so many words that they're not even recognized as a nation. And I said, oh, shit. So he's basically coming out saying that they're not sovereign. Okay, so just like Brother Sean said, they were up under the corporation. So very good point, Brother Sean. So again, what we are witnessing is a migration for people that have been either purposely, well, not either, they were purposely put on these lands where they didn't belong, everybody has to go back to their rightful place. And it's not about what political status is going to do. It's not about what some damn entity supposedly and allegedly is going to do. It is an energy thing. Okay? It must happen because that's what the planet mandates. And it will get to the point where it's going to be life or death. Okay, so can you all still hear me? I'm having so many problems.
Well, yeah, I hear you.
Sis.
Okay, because I can hear myself in and out. I'm sorry. Go ahead, sis.
You know, you mentioned that in the 1700s that our frequency dropped. And that's when they took us down. So now our frequency is raising. And they're probably more than likely very much afraid of that. And that's why they put on all these shows and all this kind of stuff.
Yeah.
So we should be, our people need to get awake and catch the wave, because you're going to be left behind if you don't get on the frequency rise that we're experiencing. And then the sun is doing too, that is changing the planet and making it well again. We went down to L.A. Tuesday, and man, it was beautiful down in the grapevine. Going through there was green. My son said,
"Oh, that's good."
When was the last time you saw it this green? I said, probably when I was a kid.
Wow, that's very good news to hear. That is extremely good news to hear. And you know, it's interesting, sis, because I feel that a lot of our people, melanated people, and we've talked about this before, so it ain't no big deal, they're going to not make it in this particular shift because they're not ready. You know, that's just the reality of it. I mean, you simply can be minding your business and you talk about the information that we're talking about on ReClassification and who's the indigenous people of the land, and you get attacked by your own folk. It ain't even necessarily the Caucasians attacking you in their motherfucking defense. They kind of sitting back silent. It's your own quote-unquote melanated folks, because of lack of knowledge of self, that's attacking. Oh, you trying to downplay Africa. Oh, you know, this was all one landmass. And, you know, I'm saying all that to say that those that enter and understand what's going on, just get prepared that a lot of your own, they're just not going to get it. They don't want to get it, or they're not ready to get it, and or it was not in their script to get it this time. And you have to let it go. Don't let it weigh you down. Don't let it depress you. Who's supposed to get it will get it. You just do you and keep it moving. But just prepare yourself, because a lot won't make it.
Right.
Let's see. There's many reasons for that. We have to remember that before any Caucasian set foot over here, we was over here scrapping.
Yes.
Yeah.
Now, there was thousands of tribes over here.
Millions of people.
It's going to be difficult for everybody to trace back exactly to what tribe. Then you have those tribal debts and karmas.
That's right.
That has to be paid as far as for the things that we've done to each other. In order for the Caucasians, the Mongoloids, and the Indo-European Native Americans to get deeply entrenched like they are.
Right.
Because we weren't so busy fighting each other.
That's
them
right.
Them dirty ass Moors would have never got to set foot on land.
On this land. That's
over
right.
here.
With that bullshit. Right.
Because we kicked their ass for thousands of years.
Thousands of years. Yes.
That just goes to show you how determined these vile pieces of shit are.
Yeah.
Right.
I mean, I don't know what category to put them in. I mean, we're not humans, but they're lower than human.
Human-like.
They're just lower than anything that we could possibly name.
Yeah, that's pretty bad.
I mean, first of all, to rape their own land and people.
Right.
Then to spread their disease all over the entire planet.
Right. It's sick.
And our people want to claim that. I mean, people have the right to claim whatever nationality you want to claim.
Right.
But you're also claiming the debt and karma
Yes, you
that
are.
goes along with it.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
So, I mean, be an Asiatic, be a Mongoloid, be any and everything you say you want to be.
Right.
You got to deal with that shit. I don't.
Exactly.
True.
Bottom line is, you got to take that shit someplace else.
Right.
Take it over there where you claim that you're from. Y'all can go over there. Y'all can do all this sick stuff that y'all like to do. And won't nobody bother y'all. We don't give a flying fuck. We just want y'all gone.
Right.
We ain't got no treaties with y'all. I mean, truth be told, it's just flat out war.
Yeah.
And our people think it's some type of game. They think it's play. It's war. They over here raping the land, everything. They just having their way. We uncomfortable on our homeland. And these motherfuckers living it up, partying. They relaxed on our shit. While we tense, struggling, stressing.
Right. And a system that we never wanted, we never agreed to, and it doesn't benefit us, and it's bullshit to begin with.
Exactly.
Because, again, we didn't have a concept of owning the land. The land just is. It is there for you to use, not abuse, but to use to sustain and to live. So you're getting from the land and you're giving back to the land. You are a caretaker. So that's why when folk hit the shores, and especially when this motherfucking paperwork came into play about owning land, we were like scratching our heads like, what do you mean owning land? You can't own land. So all this whole system across the planet is fuckery.
Right.
It's unnatural.
But you know, there's an issue that we need to address that is like the wolf in the room. We invited the beast into our land. We trusted them to come in to our land. We can't do that no more.
Right.
They showed that they can't be trusted. The Iroquois Confederation drew up treaties.
Yeah, let's name names, goddammit.
They drew up treaties with them to come into commerce with us.
Let's get it clear. The Iroquois Nation fucking invited them in. They taught them how to set up that bullshit-ass government structure. Okay? But let's be clear. Not all indigenous people agree with that motherfucking bullshit.
No.
Most of us did not.
No.
Yeah, it was
So
a
very,
lot of
very
sides.
good point. I'm sorry, go ahead.
Yeah, they took sides figuring that their land would be saved.
Yeah. that
they
they
sided
saved
with them.
Exactly.
They went into wars with them based on the fact that they were going to be saved. And a lot of people died in wars trying to liberate us at the same time. And what happened? Huh?
Exactly.
They weren't trying to liberate us. They was trying to say they goddamn selves. Wasn't nobody trying to liberate us.
No, our people went with them to fight. And
our people still going with them to fight.
And getting rooked. And they still getting rooked. You're right. You're right.
I'm just saying, think about it. I know a lot of people
you're right.
pissed, but, you know, we sending our children off to fight in this man's military, 9 times out of 10 going off to kill other melanated people. We helping to kill off the indigenous tribes on these other lands.
That's right. That's right.
I mean, for what? I mean, he came over here, kicked our ass, and we don't send our best and our brightest to go off and kick somebody else's ass instead of them kicking his ass and telling him to get gone.
Exactly.
I mean, that's just like back in Rome. That's just like back in Rome when you had to become a Roman citizen. That was the only way you could be free. After you had to fight lions and kill other people and for sport, you could become a Roman citizen.
Right. Right. And, you know, good points all across the board, because even with that Roman Empire, we know that failed. So the same, you know, which was that European bullshit, and that's, you know, melanated, dirty Moors set that bullshit up too, because again, what happened was all of Europe had pretty much went bankrupt. Okay, they set up the first banking system. Melanated Moors set up the first banking system in Europe. Okay, all that shit went bankrupt. So then they were already kind of going around the planet anyway, colonizing, okay? But then it started to really ramp up, okay? So my point being is that their systems have proven to not work because it's unnatural.
Right.
Okay. And the other point I wanted to make before we get back into the 103 facts about the Black Indians is when we talk about these tribal names, let's be very careful, family, because I had a very, very good, healthy conversations this week with folks, you know, offline and on Facebook. So as you're starting to do your research into your heritage and lineage, you know, because again, it's what Grandma and them told you. You are damn what some expert claims. It's what Grandma and them told you you are. That's who you are. But when you run across these tribal names in your research, when you hear about these common tribal names like Cherokee, like Blackfoot, what's the other one, sis, you say?
Chickasaw.
Choctaw.
Research a little deeper, because what I found in my journey with the research perspective, especially that Cherokee and that Blackfoot, that's very, very bastardized family. So
right.
It's very much so far removed from your ancestral system that you got a lot of background noise. I'm not sure if that's you.
Probably. Put you on.
Okay.
I'll put on.
Okay. All right. So be very, very careful of those names. They're generic names in nature. So meaning, as our ancestors were being removed off of the land after the wars, we started migrating. Those of us that weren't enslaved, let's be clear, those of us that were not enslaved started moving or migrating in a different area. So say, for example, I'll take South Carolina. let's say my native folks, we live right there on the shore, we chilling this, that, and the third. We get defeated, okay? So those of us, we started grouping together with the tribe next door or the tribe like up throughout the state with us, and then we formed a new tribe, or our tribe took on their name, okay? And as we kept getting removed off the land more and more, you'll see how these tribes kept merging together, and then finally it got to the point, and that's why the government came up with these bastardized names. Okay, well, Cherokee. But Cherokee really makes up a whole bunch of other tribes. Blackfoot really makes up a whole bunch of other tribes, okay? So that's just something to keep in mind when you're doing your research. If you're going to take on identity of a tribal name, make sure you understand where that name originated from, because it will tell you the region of where those people are from, and you can start digging deeper. So if you know the area that your folks are from, then you can pretty much pinpoint your tribal name. I saw it's early back to the 1400s, okay? So that's just something to keep in mind, because I saw a lot of people saying, well, I'm Cherokee, or I'm Blackfoot. I'm like, well, that really doesn't mean anything, and here's why. Okay, so I just wanted to put that out there. Okay, so let's get into, we're going to get back into 103 facts about the Black Indians. Actually, I do have some good news on this, and shout out to Sis Cheryl Wooding, because I was able to get the author's contact information, Brother P. Canyon, okay, because I actually called him to order a couple of copies of the book, okay, because I didn't think we could get the book. So I actually got a chance to talk to the brother, real cool brother. So he is scheduled to join us on the show next week. So I'm hoping that he'll be able to join us. He said he'll be able to join us for about an hour. So I'm really looking forward to that. So again, the author of the book that we've been going through over these past 2 weeks, 103 facts about the Black Indian, we hopefully can have him on the show next week. Okay, so we picked up last week on fact number 41. Okay, so I'm going to go back to fact 40 just to refresh folk memory. Here we go here. This is fact 40. When the American Revolutionary War broke out, Black Indians found themselves fighting against their own kinsmen. This is what Brother Sean was just talking about. Some Black Indian nations sided with the British, while other Black Indian nations sided with the colonial rebels, a.k.a. Americans, okay? Okay, so to me, either way, it was some bullshit. Because what the fuck you doing siding with somebody that was on your shit anyway, meaning the colonial rebels, and then definitely what was the other side doing, siding against Britain, okay? And we're kind of seeing that today, where folks are protecting the corporation, you know, on some shit that ain't benefiting them in the long run, okay? So same confusing shit going on today, all right? Okay, so here we go. Fact number 41. After Black Indian nations, come on thing, cooperate. After Black Indian nations helped to set up the colonial government, America, and in addition to, helped to sponsor military support for the new colonial government, Black Indian nations continue to fight and war amongst themselves, as they did before and after Europeans stepped foot upon the Western Hemisphere shores. Fact number 42. Black Indians were not conquered by Europeans or the so-called white man. Black Indians had a rich history of intertribal warfare among each other that continued before and after European arrival. The intertribal warfare that existed among Black Indians in the Western Hemisphere was so great that it left them in a state of impotency. With impotency setting in after years and years of clan warfare, in addition to the attraction of European trinkets, customs, and traditions, and the worshiping of the god named Jesus, all existed in paving the way for European occupancy of Black Indian lands, their spirits, and their minds. Fact number 43. After the colonial government was established, America, Black Indian nations continued to aid the new colonial government with military assistance on other Black Indian nations that fought against European expansion and taking of their ancestral lands. Fact number 44. General Mad Anthony Wayne, a.k.a. the Black Snake, was a Black Indian who served under the George Washington administration. The army of General Anthony Wayne consisted of mostly Black Indians in the ranks, as did the entire colonial government army. Besides Black Indians making up the bulk of the new colonial government army, American army, Moors also filled up the ranks. Okay, so I'm going to stop right there and we'll get back in it. That just proves just what Brother Sean just said not even 10 minutes ago, that, we're still doing the same thing with being a part of a corporation, quote, quote, the American, that does not benefit us, signing up for his military, going over, fighting in his wars against other indigenous people, taking their land and resources, okay? So that shit ain't nothing new. All right, fact number 45. George Washington established treaties or contracts with various Black Indian nations as well as with the Moors for military support against other Black Indian nations who did not support pendency of new colonial government America. Fact number 46. After the colonial government America confiscated most Black Indian lands, they, the colonial government, refused to pay Black Indian warriors pension for their military support. So in other words, the double cross. They double crossed them. They went back on their word. Fact number 47. During the American Civil War, Black Indians joined the Confederate Army in hopes of winning to secure what little ancestral land they had left. Okay. Now, before I go on, I just want to pause on fact number 47, because, again, we still have, not all of us, still have this mentality that if we just do this, then, if we just do this for those in power, the Caucasians, then we'll get that, okay? A lot of us still have this mentality that if we vote the right person in office, will get released. Okay, this particular president is going to do X, Y, Z for us. You know, they felt that about Prezzo. Now you have folks feeling that about Trump card. Okay, same particular mentality. Okay, looking for your colonizer or your oppressor to give you something, number one, that's rightfully motherfucking yours. Let's start with that. Bitch, you can't give me something that's mine. Let's start with that. But the sad part about it, you expect for him or her or the system to be your messiah. Okay? That's mental illness. Now, to me, I'm just saying to me, that's mental illness. Number 48. Other black Indians joined the Union side of the American Civil War to fight for their own objectives as well. One of those objectives being seeking prosperity, that's in quotation marks, within the American system. Now I'm going to pause right there. We still have this shit going on today about folk running around talking about prosperity packages, this one behind the scenes doing that. You know, there's military coup going on to reset the motherfucking system. Same thing, okay? Expecting a system, a person, or a thing that is enslaving you to free you, to give you something that is yours, okay? 49. Nicka Jack, also known as Nigger Jack, was a black Chickamauga, a black Indian. This ancestor led raids against the colonial rebel army Americans during the colonial rebel uprising, American Revolutionary War. He fought alongside the British tourists. His hideout was a cave in the vicinity of what is now known as Chattanooga, Tennessee. In the state of Georgia, in the region known as Cobb County, there is a park, a road, and a creek named after this great warrior. Fact number 50. There were thousands upon thousands of black Indians who fought in the American Civil War and in wars before and after this war, who were black Indians or natives to the Western Hemisphere region, but were oblivious to this fact. They only thought themselves to be Negroes. Their parents and their parents' parents, who had lost the knowledge of themselves, tribal identity, in all honesty, simply passed on to the next generation the colonized title of Negro to their children. Thus, an unbroken chain of ignorance continues to survive. Okay, so I'm going to stop in case Brother Sean or Sis, you want to put something on it.
Indeed. We still going through that today. I mean, it hasn't stopped. It's an ongoing war.
Yep.
Involving the exact same parties. They're double-crossing each other right now.
Yes.
At a time when, well, I would say the 1% of us should all be on one accord. Because we know it's never going to be the masses.
Right.
And that's by their own choosing.
Right.
This corporation is the aliens that we were told about that's coming to terraform Earth, this, that, and the other.
Yes.
But they got everybody looking to the skies for the Anunnaki and the reptilians,
yes,
you know, and all this other stuff. It's them. They right here. They look like us. Well, at least the Moors do.
right.
Well, the black Moors, should I say,
Right.
because they're all Moors, because they are from Africa. I mean, the definition of it tells you who they are. And the fact that they had to come up with a term blackamoor was a differentiating between the Moors.
Right.
Yep.
Also, it's like the greed that we got amongst ourselves, for whatever reason, we had everything for free and bought off into their system.
Yeah.
I mean, if you really think about it, everything is by consent. They're not enslaving anybody. We refuse to stand on our own outside of their system.
Right.
There's so many people that do nothing but scared to stop. That's all we got to do is stop, and it falls apart. We are the energy. We are the life force. We are the lifeblood that runs this beast. We do it.
Right.
They don't do shit but sit back and eat everything. But we do the work.
You know, you finished, Brother Sean? I wanted to.
Go ahead.
Are you saying something?
No, go ahead, sis. He's telling you go ahead.
Oh, okay. There's another thing that they did that's very, 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 very spiritual. When they came here, they brought the patriarchal system. And that patriarchal system tore up the family, because the families that we had established was matriarchal. And so they changed, there was chiefs that were females, and they changed our system, and we stopped believing in grandmama. We stopped listening to what our grandmother said. We started thinking that she was some foolish old woman. And we started thinking that the man is the one that has all the answers to the problems, when we didn't have that kind of system.
Right.
We didn't have that kind of system at all. So
right.
I just think that we just started believing their different culture systems that they brought here. They don't realize, I was listening to this article, the one I was spoken about. It was dated 1883 or something like that. And they brought their Jesus with them, and they felt that they could dispose of all the folks they conquered any way they wanted to, because they brought Jesus, and Jesus made them be the winners. So that's how a lot of us was killed, because they brought that system to us. And we still take that cultural stuff to heart. But they killed us over that. They said they have the right to dispose of us since they were the victors. That was in one of their articles, one of their writings from their historians.
And, you know, I'm sorry, go ahead, sis.
Oh, no, that's okay. You go ahead.
You know, it's interesting that you bring up that the patriarch was also brought over here. That would be something that I'm going to research a little bit deeper, because I'm wondering if anybody knows this, please put something on it. I'm wondering if when we started warring with each other before the European hit this land, if we had already overthrown the matriarch here.
Could be.
Because when we did the show on the Divine Feminine and Mother Earth,
Malta.
we, discovered exactly the temples of Malta. We discovered that the matriarch was overthrown, period. And her story was rewritten out of the picture to stand up the patriarch. As a matter of fact, last week we talked about that cuneiform language that to this day they're saying is the first language, which they trace back to the Anunnaki and all of that bullshit, which riddles with the patriarch when the true story is that it's not the first language. And the first language proves that this planet had a matriarch. So I'm wondering if when we started warring among the tribes here on this land, if that was overthrowing the matriarch society, where the balance started getting out of whack then. I'm sorry, go ahead on, Brother Sean.
Yeah, because that's when you started seeing these sculptures and depictions of these male gods. But there were like certain pockets of our people that on certain levels were still matriarchal people, from the aspect that they didn't believe in no sky daddy. They knew that Mama Earth was God. It came from the earth. That's who provided for them, but no damn sky daddy taking care of it.
Mm-hmm.
Right.
They knew where they had it good at. They knew who was taking care of them. It was that simple. Then they brought all that bullshit over here, and it's not just in Christianity that they kill. They kill in the name of all religions. They kill in the name of Allah, whoever. Whatever their God is, that's just what they do. They kill for their God. According to their God, they got the right to go take everything from everybody else if they don't believe. And even if they do believe, now they're subjects.
Right,
so,
right.
I mean, I'm damned if I do, I'm damned if I don't.
Right, because the Moors would have brought over Islam, okay? The reason Christianity took off so much amongst our people is because, and when you do research, you'll see this, because some of the ancestors, in order to hold on to land, they took on the religion of Christianity, got baptized, all that bullshit, and even took on some of the colonizers' name just to hold on to land. Okay, and just like any spell, because that's what religion is, it's a spell. It got ingrained in the generations. Okay, and of course, go ahead on, brother.
According to my research, though, they've been taking our names. Everything is in reverse. They ain't give us their names. They took our names in order to claim our stuff.
I found it both ways. Some of it was that they came over here, meaning the crown of England, when they started giving them land grants, sent their people over here, and once all of the dust settled, because that's pretty much when they started giving away the land and setting up charters, when the dust started to settle. That was around 1600s they started bringing their people over, setting up land, but the wars were still going on. I found that some of our people took on those names, But as you say, Brother Sean, I also found, because I found this in my own family, that I saw where they were taking on our names. Because you'll see, and Chief Warhorse is going to talk about this in one of the clips tonight. You'll see two sets of names, and those of us that spent any time in the South, you know, you talk to auntie and them, grandma and them, and you mention the last name, and they'll say, oh, you mean the white so-and-so? Or you mean, let's use the name Johnson for as a matter of fact. You mean the white Johnsons or the black Johnsons? Okay. So in some cases, and how you can tell if that's the case, and I'm only sharing with you what I found in my research, if the melanated side of the card, if that particular name carried back to owning land, and even to this day, they still own a lot of land. I'm talking acres, yeah. I'm talking a bunch of acres, and if they turn out to be wealthy, and they have a white side that's carrying that name, then that pretty much tells the story that the white side or the Caucasian side took on the melanated side's identity. Okay? And then the opposite is true. A lot of times if you can trace their particular name back to the 1600s, and if your family is associated with it, and you don't see where your family held on to the land or whatever, that is probably more likely the case that your family became enslaved and took on that particular name. So I found it to be the case both ways. But very good
also,
point.
You have to take into account the black nobility from over there and the fact that the Moors from over there came over here and pretended like they was us, intermingled with us.
Right,
this,
and they
that,
thinking ass is still doing it, and it just pisses me off. You're absolutely right. They still doing it.
And that's where they started making claims through the father, knowing full well that land and everything and power went through the woman.
Exactly. 1,000% correct. Yes. Or attaching themselves, like you said, to these particular indigenous tribes and infiltrating. Okay? Because it is said, and I'm tending to believe, damn, Brother Sean, what's the priestess name in Louisiana that made claim to pretty much all the land in Louisiana, and she has the paperwork. She since transitioned on. Has the paperwork.
Empress somebody. Okay. It was Washington.
Yeah, I never pronounced. Matter of fact, I have her book. I haven't gotten through all of it. But to me, now this is just my humble opinion, I feel that her particular nation was infiltrated. I really do. I feel it was infiltrated. And, you know, to me, she was infiltrated with a bunch of Moorish stuff that didn't apply. Okay? Now, I don't know how true it is, but I was told by several other people, and this was years before I really got into studying. I was just learning all of this stuff, that before she transitioned, that it was a bunch of motherfucking men behind the scenes fighting for shit, and she wind up living her last days out pretty roughly. Now, I don't know how true that is, but that is what I heard. And even to this day, I really don't know. It seems like it's a division among that nation.
You know,
the woman's supposed to be running it now. Supposed to be. But there's a bunch of men vying for motherfucking power, and they're not even supposed to be running anything. Not in that way. It's supposed to be a woman through the bloodline making the assignments. So, I'm sorry. Go ahead on, sis.
I'm going to speak personally. And I'm not sure because there's always been a question mark in my family. But my grandfather was from Louisiana.
Okay.
And we were in Texas, and he showed up one day, and they said it was like he was running from something. And there was some kind of conflict in Louisiana. I think that birth of the nation, I think that points to the conflict that was going on in Louisiana with Washita and the people who, the ones who ran out of there to keep themselves with their heads on intact, because they did have problems there. And my grandfather was one of those people that showed up in our Indian territory and joined up with them. And I think it's the Nachita that he came from, and they joined up with us. So I think that's how you pronounce it. I can't even get that name right.
Is it Natchez, like N-A-N-C-H-E?
Yeah. And they were running from Louisiana because there was something going down.
That's interesting because, the Natchez, I just so happen to know that because that's on my stomping grounds. That comes out of the Mississippi. So that would make sense if you said your grandfather and them were running and they linked up with the Natchez.
Well, they linked up with the Catos.
Okay.
Because they were running out of that area. The Natchez were there, but the Natchez also ran out. And they linked up with the Catos.
Okay. Well, I know the Natchez trace back to Mississippi, but they very well could have expanded out to Louisiana and then moved back out. But sis, let me real quick. Damn it, I had it. Sis did give me the name, and I don't want to mispronounce the chiefess name, but it is Empress Verdasi Tierra Washita Turner Gosson L. Bay. Okay. So again, that's just my opinion with her particular nation, that it was infiltrated with that whole Moorish thing. And, to this day, it's still split. And to my knowledge, and I could be totally off kilter with this, but I don't think there is a woman or divine feminine as the head of that nation as it rightfully is supposed to be. It should have been passed down through the bloodline. Even if she didn't have any daughters, it should have went to the next woman in line. Okay, so just my little 2 cents. Go ahead, Brother Sean.
I believe there were a people called Washita, but I don't think that was the original name. But they weren't Moors or Mers.
No.
Once they went up under that banner of Mers, they became a corporation. And then they became a federally recognized corporation in order to be able to go to the UN.
Yes.
Obama joined them. Him and Michelle in 1997. I was reading some of their charter information, and they joined them. So you're right about that, because he wouldn't be joining that kind of stuff if they weren't federally recognized.
And did they get any land back? Do any of you all know that? Well, that's apparently not, because folks still kicking it on Louisiana.
No, they took the land and stuff back.
Okay.
Well, she took it back.
Huh?
She took it back. She did. The government gave it back after many years of fighting.
Yeah, okay, and then they let her have it for a little while, and then when they got ready to, they took it back.
Yeah, that's right, because my grandfather don't have that land anymore. He didn't have that Louisiana land anymore, because you're right, they took it back. Somebody took it, because my grandfather didn't have it.
Right. Right. And to this day, in that Louisiana area, and I'm just going to speak on Louisiana because the territory is bigger than that, of course, the original territory.
Mm-hmm.
You still have melanated men talking about what the fuck they own. Really? Oh, okay then. Okay. So that's just one of the examples of infiltration within our own, not doing things in the divine order in harmony with the planet.
Right.
Bottom line, men, you are not meant to rule. You're not meant to rule on a woman planet.
That's funny.
Sorry, but it's the fucking truth. You are not meant to rule on a woman planet. It's not natural. It's out of order. Okay, so fact number 51. I'm going to go over a couple of more facts, and then we're going to get back into some of the videos I wanted you to go over. Okay, fact number 51. Most Buffalo soldiers were black Indians dispatched by the U.S. Army to assist in the colonizing and confiscation of other black Indian lands west of the Mississippi River. Reservation natives who don't know their true history and who are also brainwashed by images feel that the Buffalo soldiers, who are ill mistaken and ill classified as African Americans, helped the paleface drive them off their lands onto reservations. This last aspect of things, however, is true. In addition to, one must keep in mind that most reservation natives are hybrid descendants of the true indigenous seeds. Okay, so that's fact number 51. Fact number 52. Many black Indians who fought in the American Civil War, either on the Confederate side or the Union side, were not acknowledged as being indigenous or native. They were acknowledged as being Negro. Okay, so that goes back into the reclassification that we were talking about, from indigenous to Indian to Negro to colored to black to African American. I'm sorry.
I was listening to Dark Man X, and he said the classifications happened for the ones who went to the reservation. They were agreeing to go, so they remained Indians. And the ones that didn't want to submit to the colonization, they changed their classification to Negroes. So some of the people who are on those reservations are really us, but most of them are not. And he said that's when he was saying that's how the classifications start changing, and they changed the ones that didn't go into the reservations and wouldn't cooperate with them to Negroes and blacks and coloreds and African Americans and stuff like that. I said, is that what happened?
Yeah,
so I don't know.
That's a very good point. Yep. But you know what? When you go back into those property records, so meaning when you're looking at property estates back from the 1600s on up, especially when you get into the 1700s and 1800s. And I said this last week. The folks that were granted the land, so meaning the folks that came over from England that was granted the land, they had to declare, and this shit still holds true today. That's how you know that this whole fucking system is fraud, and I wouldn't be trying to defend this fuckery, but they had to declare their property, okay, as part of the county records. And part of the property, not, of course it was the land, but it was also the property assets, which included, quote, quote, people. And they very meticulously said that particular estate or that property, what type of property they had. So they would say, for example, and I saw just within one particular family, they had on their Negro, woman, middle-aged, stout, Negro, woman, young age, mulatto, Indian man, middle-aged, Negro. So my point being, they broke down what the classifications were. And so just like you said, sis, based on whatever deal somebody struck with them or who wasn't motherfucking cooperating. Oh, and they also classified people as slaves, and they also classified people as African. This is in their own records. This shit ain't hidden. This in they motherfucking property records because they had to turn around and pay taxes back to the crown, not only on the land that was granted to them or given, stolen land that was given to them, but also on that property as well. Okay? So none of that is hidden, but you're absolutely right, sis. Those different statuses absolutely most certainly existed. Okay, so sis sent me an update on Empress Tierra Turner Gaston L. Bay of the Washita Nation, and when we were talking about the airships and it should have been passed down to the woman, she said Her Highness Divine Empress Wendy Farka Washita is the current reigning Empress of the Washita, I don't know how to pronounce all of that, Empire and leader of the Imperial Washita whatever that is, nation. She is the legal heir to the Mason Rouge land grant that was skillfully willed to her great-great-great-grandfather Henry Turner, son of Marquis de Mason Rouge, the Marquis Joseph de Mason Rouge, the child of French nobility, was rescued by the Baron Philip de Bastro at the beginning of the unrest culmination with the French Revolution. Okay, so then you answered my question on how the Moor stuff came in. Because if they have French nobility,
yeah,
that answers the Moor question then.
The Edomites.
Yeah, that pretty much answers the Moor question. Okay. Well, I guess that's good to know that they have an empress reigning. All I know is that you have other folks that are setting up nationalities out of that particular Washita name. Okay, so I don't know what's going on there, but it's a lot of confusion around that. I'm sorry, go ahead on, Brother Sean.
If you think about like the whole thing with Louisiana and the mulattoes and the French colonization, I mean, what the French got to do with Aboriginal
I
America?
never have understood that. I've never understood that.
They ain't Aboriginal here. They was colonizers too, and they all fought each other. You know, France had a spot, Spain had a spot, Britain. You know, they got some of the indigenous tribes to side with them to try and, you know, take these people out.
Yep.
You know, the ones that sided with the French when they lost, then they became slaves. The ones that sided with Spain when they got their ass kicked out by Britain, then they became slaves. Then they eventually turned on the ones that was with them.
Right.
I mean, it's simple.
Right.
Real simple.
Right. So that kind of makes sense why how the whole Moor aspect came into play if they had some type of arrangement with the French granting, because grant means given, right? Unless I'm missing something.
Right.
And if something is yours, how the fuck you gonna grant me anything? No, motherfucker, you not finna put on no goddamn paper that you granted me a goddamn thing. It's mine.
Wasn't theirs to grant to nobody.
Exactly.
Oh, you know, but they probably have to do that to even say they were owner of it, because of that part when the Confederacy came into town, or the Civil War took off. Then they had to change all those names to that they were not the owners of it. Because in my family, there's like one county and another county. But the white people over there in that other county say they are related to us. And I'm like, oh, how did that happen? I'm like, oh.
At least they kind of trying to admit it now. That's interesting.
I know it. I still haven't figured it out. We had to live apart? I just don't get it. But because the coloring was definitely not the same. So they could have been slaves that we had, because a lot of the paleface were slaves. Yeah. But then when the war came on, they were free.
Right.
But then we're family, supposedly. I'm like, okay. My mama didn't tell me about that one.
Yeah, so it's a lot of messed up stuff in the game, but it's sad because I do know that whole Louisiana area.
It's a mess.
It is a hot mess with the capital H. It's a lot of people out of Louisiana that can trace their ancestors back to being indigenous to that land. So yeah, that's just one example of what we've been speaking on, and what the book 103 Facts About the Black Indian talked about. The war among the tribes, and then the tribes siding with this one, cutting deals with that one. And to be honest, to me, Louisiana is a prime example of that.
Right. Well, the one I picked out from where I was born, where I was hatched, that tribe, the Caddo, have been there since, been known to have been there since 1500 BC. So, what is that word, Brother Sean? Autogenous?
Autogenous.
Yeah, I finally got that right. Yeah, we've been here so long that I guess we just got, sometimes you get so used to being somewhere that you take it for granted that you're there. And then you just living every day. And then when you're not there, you be going, what happened? And I think that's what happened to us. We just took for granted the gift that Mother Earth gave us.
I totally am so vibing with you. As, indigenous to this land, we simply took it for granted.
Yeah.
You know, because really we had pretty much everything. We didn't have a concept of owning the land. We certainly did not have a concept of this fuckery with this monetary system, because the land provided for you everything you needed. So you're absolutely right. We took it for granted, and I'll take it a step further and say we did not realize how rich in nature that we were.
No, we didn't.
We didn't realize it. Now, the spiritual side of why is this land the most important and was really one of the last ones to be conquered, because we already talked about they had already fucked up Europe. Okay, they had already started the scavengerness in the land of Africa. So then the land of milk and honey, which is known as here, the reason this land is the milk and honey from a spiritual perspective is because of where it is located. It is located right next to the what we're calling the Arctic, which is really the energy center of where that black sun is, or Mama Earth's heart chakra. That runs everything. That's why this land is so important and so fertile, and continues to be important. Why everybody want to run their asses over here. It's an energy thing. Okay? Now, we took it for granted, and in turn had it stripped away from us. Okay? But with it being stripped away from us, that means the caretakers were not able to take care of the land like it is supposed to be taken care of. So in turn, Mama Earth suffered as well. Now, the good part about it, as we've talked about this before, time, what they call time, is really calculated in cycles. Okay? So we were in the Dark Ages. All of that shit was the Dark Ages. Now we are at the beginning of the Golden Age. And with each age comes the necessary energy shift. Okay? So the energy is shifting back to a high vibrational state. So you are physically located where that burst of energy is at the highest level, because you're close to that black sun, that Arctic. That's why they motherfucking stinking asses is protecting that Arctic. Okay? But, again, everybody is going to have to return back to their rightful place, because as Brother Sean so eloquently put, it is a must. It's an energy thing, or they will be destroyed. Okay, so that's for our benefit. Okay, but that is what's really going on. That is why this land was the land that folks always wanted. The difference is today it don't motherfucking matter what they want, because they don't have a say in it. I don't have a say in it. You don't have a say in it. It's a energy shift thing. Everything will return to where it is supposed to be, so the shift can even go into higher gear. And if you don't have your energy center together even then, your ass gonna be shook off like a tick. Okay. Okay, somebody been holding for a minute. I'm sorry, sweetheart. Let me get to you, 832. I apologize for that. 832, your line is open.
Hi, Rhonda. Blessings to you, Sean, and Sandra. Let me just give you some points of clarity. It was Empress Viridiasi Gostin Turner L. Bay. And as the last time I talked with you when I said that the Washita may be what we would consider contemporary, the ancient name, my understanding, is the Dugdamoundia.
Then
Very
that's
long
what
word.
it put in there. She put it in there. I didn't know how to pronounce it.
The Dugdamoundia, just break it up as it said, Dugdamoundyah. Dugdamoundia were the mound people that some people reference in certain contemporary pre-Columbian archaeological references as the Olmecs, or the big stoneheads, if you're familiar with them. The mound people went from large swaths of what is called Canada, and some in the Moorish movement references Canaan land, down to what turned into a small hamlet that the Empress was mayor over in Louisiana.
Right.
Two other cities of names I think that you were trying to reference, not just Natchez, but Natchitoches, which I can't remember exactly how it's spelled, but it's Nactic something else or whatever, is on the Louisiana side. On the Texas side is Nacogdoches.
Yeah.
Okay.
Which I think,
that makes sense.
Which I think is just the city references to some tribal area that has been annexed, stolen. But, really and let's say I agree with 100% of everything that you and Sean and Sandra have said tonight. It's still a quandary. My 2 cents is 3 letters. WHY. Indigenous, as you were saying, going is indigenous, Indian, Negro, colored, black, African American. If we want to use a word, which is how we're being entrapped with these contracts and this paperwork, and I will comment on that before departing, is autochthonous. And as you go, and I think when you were using your online etymology dictionary, Sean, I'll spell it again quickly, AUTOCHTHONOUS. Autochthonous has no precursor. Indigenous, native, original, aboriginal, all of those terms fall under this authentic term because it has no precursor predating.
Right.
It is the origin.
Right.
So if we start talking about, when we come to this AA as opposed to African American, how about autochthonous American?
Yeah.
Okay. The other thing is that what I find very interesting, and I'll say this in parting, is that we have all this discussion of people about the tangible, what I'm going to say, the tangible versus the intangible. Now, some might say it's spiritual. Then they get mischaracterized as religious. But all these things that were put on paper has now been elevated above what was. We used to have it as an oral tradition, ORL, or as the DNA. And I'm talking about the DNA and the RNA, which is what you were talking about for Huduki, and now it's being called indexing.
Right.
When we're talking about blood oath, these are all intangibles. And the intangible, or what some, when they go into, Big Mama and all this other religious spookism that we have had ourselves conditioned into over these past millennia, is that the seen and the unseen is another way that they reference it. But the seen or the tangible, or what's documented, or what is written down, has been given greater authority.
Yes.
And that is where we continue to find ourselves in a crux of the battle. It's not, to me, it's never been an either or. I'm a both and kind of guy. I've always looked at things in an inclusive manner. However, my entire experience under white supremacy is to be excluded. Okay? So then, when you look at the spiritual behavior and essence of these people who are mischaracterized with these terminologies of Negro, colored, black, African American, we're trying to include any and everybody on God's green earth and exclude ourselves.
Right.
No one else behaves this way. I don't care who they are. All these people immigrating here, migrating from across the planet, talking about how great their patch of dirt was, where they're from, all this great culture, language, etc. Even the so-called Chinese, who are claiming to have a 5,000-year-old culture. Okay?
Right.
But everybody is, and their mama, is breaking the door down to get in my house. So I'm in 100% agreement with Sean on that. But, you know, and I'm saying we may not answer it tonight. It boils down to me, those three letters, WHY. You know, then there's the deception and the distraction to keep us confused. You know? Now, everybody else is trying to lay claim to something they have no claim on.
Right.
The people who have claim and who are the inheritors are confused out of their existence, so that therefore, by default, people who have written some shit down on paper, because that's all they've done, they've written something on paper.
Yep.
And then what we have that's intangible, immersed within us, we have not documented. And I'm not saying that makes it more or less legitimate. I'm saying this is where we're having the crux, well, this is just my 2 cents. The crux of the argument is being able to legitimize through documentation what is already ours by birthright. And I'll leave on this point, because I'm not saying to give it credence or not. Doing battle under a federal corporation, not a government.
Yes.
But it is federally a crime to steal identity, correct?
Ooh, yes.
And all of this is a fraud.
Yes.
So if we will just base the facts on what is the fraud, would you move out of the way? Would you move out of the way? Man's behind me. Don't you see them behind me? Move. So if we can just go and decide on basing it on a fraud, putting it on documentation, and then get our basis for the fact that it is. And I yield.
All right, brother. Thank you so much. I'm going to mute you. Peace and love, brother. You really brought it. Thank you so much.
You know, that reminds me, he reminded me something about that SF-181.
Oh, Lord, yeah. You know that pisses me off. You know that really gets under my doggone skin. But go ahead on. Go ahead.
You know, people say don't use that. But see, the United States government is a corporation. It's not a nation or a government. It's a corporation. And so they have to use that SF-181 because they treat all U.S. citizens as employees. And I always wonder why they say employees on this thing. And it just
on that SF-181?
Yeah, because when we are in the database on a police scanner, they got your picture, they know your weight, they know everything about you. And then they got your race. And it's usually black, Negro, colored, African American, whatever they put you in. And that comes off of that SF-181 because you are essentially an employee of theirs. And that's how come they mistreat you so bad, because they tell you you can't drive this way, you can't walk this way, you got to pay for going that fast, you got to pay this tax, you got to, because you're their employee. And that's why people say don't use that, but you got to change your status, I believe, under their stuff, because that's how they got you.
So, go ahead, Brother Sean.
My thing is this: you're changing the status with who? They already know who you are.
I know they know who you are.
Care. Exactly.
No,
So, but hear me out, sis.
Yeah.
Any court that you're taking it to is a corporate court.
That's true.
So, I mean, you're playing within their game. It's their rules. You're playing up under a title that they permit you to play up under. It's either you're this or that, or you can't play.
Right.
So that's where our problems lie. You know, we holler for equal rights, this, that, or the other, and their system. Instead of being who we are and living outside of that system, like you done seen on plenty of movies where you got these people building up their city and you got the indigenous people on the outside living out in the bush or whatever, however they portray it, looking at them like they stupid for all the shit that they doing.
Right.
But then you get the one or two dummies that want to go be a part of the city life and go in and be all out of place and get ridiculed and put down and this, that, or the other till they learn how to be a good boy.
Right.
People think that we're fighting for freedom. You're fighting to be in their system. They sitting back laughing at your dumb black ass. Yeah. You ain't fighting to be who you are. You're fighting to be black, proud, African American in their system and their game. You're proud to be an abused descendant of a slave who had the most horrible existence. That's what you want to claim in life. That you serve a God that just decided that you was the worst thing on the planet, that you just had to go through every atrocity imaginable. And then after you go through, while you're going through all that, you're supposed to love the motherfucker that's doing it to you.
Right.
And then if you don't love the motherfucker, oh no, you're going to hell because you're not going to be able to love the motherfucker that did it to you. So you're going to hell because you didn't love your enemy. You didn't obey your earthly master as you do your father, your heavenly father. So either way it goes, you're going to hell. They want you to live a physical hell, and then they tell you when you die, you're going to hell. So when do you have any peace?
Right. And that's why and really that SF 181, why it pisses me off, because you have melanated folks pushing that motherfucking form, talking about some check white.
Oh no,
so
you don't do that.
You can get a particular, because that's who you are. You're the illuminated one. They switched your identity, and folks going to change their driver's license. But as Brother Sean said, it's just still you're getting permission to be in their system. That's all.
And and we have to find a way. I mean, they say it's going to take millions of us, but I believe, like you say, the planet is changing. It's going to throw them out of here.
Yeah, because again, it doesn't matter what they motherfucking say. It don't matter what I motherfucking say. It's what the energy and what the planet says. So all this fucking illusion of paperwork, because that's all it is. It's an illusion.
Right.
Of paperwork and currency and political status and corporations and government. It's an illusion.
Right.
It does not give you life. We breathe life into that bullshit because we were conquered.
Right, we were. Right.
You don't need no motherfucker to tell you who you are on no paperwork, on whatever day. You are who you are. It is through your veins, through your DNA, through your RNA, and through your vibration. And if are. You have to know thyself. No amount of classification is going to do that for you. So let me go to 313. Here we go. 313, your line is open. Uh-oh, maybe not. 313. Okay, you might not have your hand up, so I'm just going to put you back in mute status. So if you do want to put something on it, you have to get back in the queue. Okay, all right, so we're going to go over a couple of more facts, and then we're going to get into a couple of clips. All right, fact number 53. And again, I am referencing 103 facts about the Black Indian from Brother P. Canyon, and I'll also give you his information where you can reach out to him and order a copy of the book. He does still sell the book, because I thought the book was out of print because they had it on Amazon for like $250,000, but the author does still sell the book, and it is one I definitely think that, you know, the family should have in the collection. He's charging $25 per copy. Okay, so here we go. Fact number 53. Most of the Navajo code talkers who were used to assist the U.S. government in World War II were blue, Black Indians. The photo and film footage of the Black Navajo who participated in this war were carved out of history. Fact number 54. The term Negro and colored was not only applied to Black Indians to psychologically and spiritually remove them from their land, these colonized titles were also applied to Black Indians who were incorporated into the slave market. Okay, so 54 is very important because that is the same shit we're dealing with today. Arguing over some motherfucking colonized terms. And it just still slays me that our own people cop a motherfucking attitude when you don't want to reference yourself as Black, Negro, colored, and African American. It still slays me to this day because they don't know thyself to know that those were colonized titles. Okay. Number 55. Black Indians did slave raids on each other before and after European arrival. Okay? 55 is very important. So this myth of us thinking that the whole concept of slavery, that the white man brought it here first, let's stop fucking lying to each other. It was already happening before he hit the shores. Okay? With the different Indian nations warring against each other. Fact number 56. Black Indians owned other Black Indians as slaves. These slaves were also classified as Negroes. Okay? Fact number 57. European writers took advantage of fact number 56, fact above, to say that Indians owned slaves. Fake European images of so-called Indians were promoted showing so-called Indians owning slaves. Art paintings were displayed showing distorted images of natives in the Western Hemisphere owning dark-skinned people as slaves, who in most cases were also natives. The fake images of indigenous people in the Western Hemisphere, which usually display them as having pale skin, shows them owning slaves whose skin is always depicted as being dark. Pale-skinned Europeans helped to create a consciousness which subliminally says that slaves and Negroes are synonymous. When most people hear or read about a slave, simultaneously, the image of a dark-skinned person appears in their mind. By showing fake pale-skinned natives owning dark-skinned people, help to create the illusion that so-called Indians and Negroes are two separate races, when in essence they are the same people. Okay, so that basically 57, he's trying to sum up and pretty much say that the myth that the folks that they are classifying as Indians today that live on the reservation, we're terming them the $5 Indians, that the only way that the melanated people are classified as Indians is because they either invited us into their tribe or we were their slaves. So what he is essentially telling you, that is not the case. They weren't even in the motherfucking picture. Okay? They were an invented race to switch identities with the indigenous Indian, which is you. The fact of the matter is that black Indians own other black Indians as slaves that were classified as Negro. And again, once you start doing your research and you go back into those property records, you will see where they classify. You're going to see African on there. Rarely, family, did I see African on those records out of, let's say, one particular family's estate. Rarely did I see an African. I think I only saw an African one time out of all of the records, the subset of records that I looked at. So, which again kind of proves that the whole concept that 12 million Africans were brought on these shores as slaves, and that's where your lineage is false. Okay. But the other part that I'm trying to prove is that even in their records, they tell you who is an Indian, who was a slave, who was categorized as Negro. Okay? So again, that was an identity switch. So I'll pause in case y'all want to put something on it. I'm going to give the last fact, and then we're going to move into a video, and then we'll come back to this.
You keep it moving, sis.
Okay. Sorry, I was looking at my phone also. Okay, so fact number 58. The U.S. government and U.S. government-sponsored natives are preaching a doctrine that says the so-called black people became Indian or native people as a result of acquiring citizenship with different indigenous nations here on Western soil. As to say that no dark-skinned people lived in the Western Hemisphere up into the transatlantic African slave trade. This tactic is exercised in attempts to discredit indigenous black Indians from claiming their true homeland and subliminally supports the ridiculous notion that every dark-skinned person that is interpreted as black is from Africa. Okay, so we're going to put a pause on that because I do want to get into another clip by Chief Langley. And this video, Chief Langley Speaks, Part 1, Indian Slavery and Racial Reclassification. This is off of the YouTube channel William Bell. I'm going to play another clip on this video when he kind of brings it home again, and he's going to get into kind of what we just went over, who enslaved who, and you have to be careful because some of your ancestors may have been the ones doing some of the enslavement. Okay, here we go. Let me try to find this clip. Okay. Let me see. Bear with me, family. Where's Chief Langley? Ooh, this one kind of long, y'all. I might have to stop it. We'll see, because it's long. It's 37 minutes, so I'm going to play it out. I do want to get, it must have been really juicy, because I usually don't try to put clips up that long. So here we go, family.
Answer that question.
Oh, it looks like we've lost the Chief. He's coming back right now. Sorry about that, Chief.
Are we still on the air?
You were still on the air. Sorry about that.
I'm going to answer that question from my own flight and experience. That is, I'm a Yuchi Indian. I'm a member of the Yuchi Indian tribe. I reside on my Aboriginal land. I have an Aboriginal land claim because I am an indigenous descendant of Yuchi Indians. An African is not, unless he is part Yuchi. If you don't have a land claim, if you're not tied to a tribe, then do not claim your Indianness. Embrace your Africanness. But do not walk in a Native American meeting claiming you are Native American wearing a daisheki. So it's a choice. Totally up to you. I am a Yuchi American Indian. That is who I am. That's what I live. That's what I breathe. That's what my ancestors are. And my family has taken it to the point of taking it legally that we have had our ancestors that are past legally changed back to who they are. So their deaths and their birth certificates have been amended. Some of them have been amended without having an amended code on it. That
Chief,
is
what
in
is
the
a
honor
Chief? What
of
is
my
a Chief?
ancestors.
Chief, what is an amended code?
When you modify a death certificate or birth certificate, and they put amended on it. They said it was changed and it was authorized to be changed, or it could be changed without having any amendment on it. It all cares on how you want to embrace your ancestors. I paid tribute to mine. That's who they are. That's who they were. And that's who I legally had it changed to. We were able to do that by knowing who we are. That's who we always have been. When my mother died in my house, the first thing the coroner asked me, what tribe is she from?
Any other callers on hold, or do you have any questions for the Chief?
Hey, could I add on to that?
Yes, sir, Rick.
Yeah, to add on to what he was saying to the lady, here's another thing. If you can't trace your ancestry back to Africa and they send you back to Africa, where are you going to go? I mean, you should have, if you can't trace your ancestry back there, you shouldn't even be thinking about that. And a question that I have for the Chief is, there's a lot of people out there, that are trying to find their ancestry and all these things and look at all these so-called treaties and all these things, are there any like code words in these treaties that would like let us know, or in these documents that let us know that they're exactly talking about us? Hello?
Chief,
Hello?
Chief, did you get that question?
What was the question?
Rick, can you ask it again?
Oh, I was saying, you know, a lot of the people out there listening, you know, they're trying to, you know, trying to find their heritage, and they're trying to look into all these treaties, you know, and they probably get mixed up with a lot of the things that they're looking for. Are there any like code words or things that we should be looking for in these particular documents that would let us know that they're definitely talking about us?
Let me say this. Those of us that didn't migrate to Oklahoma or any other place out west, there were treaties that were signed prior. And according to your state, those treaties may still be in effect according to your state's constitution. Some states are still aligned with constitutions during the British era. It all depends. Some folks in Oklahoma will say that don't apply. They are in Oklahoma.
The information you give is so simple, so direct, so to the point. Why does it seem like this is so hard for us to understand and get?
Because it has never been taught. And when you go on a genealogy search, no one thinks to look at colonial law and look at racial classification because they never knew it existed. I am a forensic genealogist. I teach this. I have been studying it for over 10 years. It is very effective, very easy, along with navigation of maps. Here's an example. If your ancestors shows up on the census in 1850, that tells you right now your ancestors wasn't enslaved. Secondly, if they show up on 1850 in the census as a farmer, go look at the congressional records and to see what did they allow the Indians to do. What trade were the Indians involved with at that time? They were farmers. If you find any documentation with your family name on it, past 1850, they were not a slave. Don't let nobody fool you for that one. They are indigent servants. That means there were Africans that came over. But the majority of the Africans that came to South Carolina were free. Remember, Virginia expelled 60,000 free Africans around 1690. 60,000 people. What does that tell you?
So, Chief,
go ahead. People need to study. Study the congressional records. Get out of these history books.
Chief, why do you say get out of the history books? Because that's where a lot of us, that's where we like to claim that we brag on what we read out of these books. Why are the books so unimportant, and why haven't they really helped us?
Because they're biasly written, and they omit history. Omitting history is worse than telling a lie. You left it out, so it didn't exist, so I can't find it. I'm sorry. I've had so many white people get upset with me. We were never slaves. The hell you wasn't. You better check South Carolina colonial records. The British sent 75,000 of y'all over here who were Scottish and Irish. It's in the congressional records. Oh, they were indentured service and not slaves. You're right.
What's the difference?
How come when you go back, everybody that's on this call right now, go to the census site and look up the census of 1790, and the 1790 census will tell you they did not take names in the 1790 census. It tells you the first question it asks, how many free white men in the household? Why are you going to say free if nobody wasn't enslaved? How many free white women in the household? Why are you going to say free if somebody wasn't enslaved? How many free persons? Now you're talking about the natives.
So basically what you're saying is also is not what is written, but it's like you said, what's omitted.
It is what's omitted. Go look at the census, study the census history of 1790.
Chief,
They did not record any names. If you want to find your family, listen to me carefully. If you want to find your family beyond 1790, you have to search land deeds, land boundary grants, land warrants. You will find your people. They're there, owning land.
So it's not as far-fetched it's not as far-fetched because I think a lot of us, that's why we go straight to Africa, because I know my grandmother and grandfather Africa, they would look at you like you was crazy. So doing what you just said, that would show a lot of us that isn't the case.
If they go to our website, www.srbuttribe.org, and if they take the time while they're on the phone listening right now and go to that website, and when you get to that website, scroll down till you get to the United States Census number 44 that says from 1850 to 1930. Select that. When you select that, there's an icon that says 1850. Click on the 1850 icon. 1860 census is going to come up. Scroll down to the bottom. There's 1790. Click on 1790. 1790 says this is the history of the United States Census. In 1790, Assistant Marshal listed the name that in 1790, the Assistant Marshal listed the name of each head of household, asked the following question. Question 1, the number of free white male age, under 16 or 16 and upward. The next question, number of free white females. The other question, the number of other free persons. The last question, the number of slaves. Europeans were slaves in this country, especially in South Carolina. And not all of these African Americans were slaves. They were slave owners. Read the book, The Black Slave Masters of South Carolina Low Country.
Rick, did you have a question?
No, not right now.
People have been confused. They have been lied to. History have been omitted. And what it does, it plays with the psychological impact, which also has an effect on your economic and social status. If you think your family has never done nothing, you ain't going to do nothing, and you live under a cloud. There is no cloud for me. It is beyond the sky, infinite. They did not lie when some of the African and kings and queens came over here, but it was a handful of them who were slave owners.
So you're saying the African queens and kings that came over here, they were owning some of the indigenous Indians over here?
Exactly. It's a fact. It's written in the congressional records.
So Chief, how many would the congressional records tell you how many Africans did come over here as slaves?
I tell you what, if you go to the Moral Sultry Act of South Carolina, it tells you the 7 African nations that engaged in the slave trade. Many of them were living in what is now known as Edgefield, South Carolina. And in Edgefield, South Carolina, in the 1700s, it talks about the Egyptians. The Egyptians were quoted as free Moors. Matter of fact, I'm going to send it to you right now, and you read it off to the people.
Economics in our communities are in bad shape, and we produce nothing in this country. All we do is consume. And some of the information he's given, it will connect us back to the land. It'll probably connect you back to some of the industries that your people were on previously. You know, and this is definitely what needed, especially for the young people. Chief, where are you sending that email? I mean, that link.
Actually, I'm giving it to you. See, can you get a couple of calls? Give me about 2 minutes to locate this one.
Okay. People waiting on the line who are listening, do you have any questions for the Chief?
I do have a question.
Please, go ahead. Where are you calling from? What's your name and where are you calling from?
My name is Coco. I'm calling from Baton Rouge, Louisiana. I have a 2-part question. My first question is, I heard him mention that I can go to the archives building to research my history, but being in Louisiana, if you have any knowledge, where can I go to find out exactly more about my history? I do know that for a fact that I have Indian in my blood, and as well as Creole in my blood, just by seeing past family members and stuff like that. And my second part of my question is, I am a natural hairstylist, and behind the chair, I try to talk to my stylist a lot about, culture and, learning about themselves and, just getting to know their history and stuff like that. So I'm just asking a general question, what is it that I can do now as I'm learning more to be able to speak to my clients and to my people, just give me any type of information, empowerment on, how to go about reaching my people a little bit better than what I have been.
Once you find the information in the state archives go look up the colonial laws of Louisiana. Once you find those laws, start looking into statute laws and race classification laws. Once you have that information, point them to a source. The worst thing you could do is have somebody tell you about something but can't give you an affirmed source where they got it from. So authors are always biased. Somebody always, I don't like the way this guy writes. But if you go to the congressional records and get the information where the author gets the information from, you have given them the source.
Caller, you had a two-part question, right?
Yeah, the second part was, I think he kind of basically hit both questions. Once I go to the state archives and look up the statute laws and ReClassification, that'll give me a little bit better insight on how I can go about continue doing what I do as a natural hairstylist and trying to reach my people, talking to them. So if I'm not mistaken, I think you did answer the question, unless you have something else you would like to add to it.
We have Heritage Club meetings, and we have them on Tuesday night and sometimes Saturday mornings. And what we do, we teach the history. We also provide assistance with tracing your ancestry. You come to a couple of meetings, join, you will have access to genealogists, tribal genealogists. You will have access to forensics genealogists. You will have access to historians, anthropologists, archaeologists. We have all of them that are aligned with us, that will help you. It's not going to cost you $200. It's not going to cost you $100. We charge $25 a year for our membership. We will help you.
And ladies and gentlemen, let me add, I've been following. The chief called me up from a show last week, and the information he has given me in the last week is more than I've learned in my 12 years of going to kindergarten up to the 12th grade. The information is easy to read, it's easy to find. He will walk you through it, and after reading a tenth of what he sent you, you will be looking at yourself in a whole different way. So please contact them. Chief, can you give your email and information again? Now, is this what you want me to read? The Black Slave Holders, Free Blacks?
What does the title say?
Black Slave Holders, Free Black Slave Masters in South Carolina, 1790 to 1860.
Exactly. Before that, there's another one I put, said the Petition of the Free Moors of South Carolina. Open that document up. That is a congressional record. Read what it says.
You want me to read the highlighted area?
Once you open the document up, it says South Carolina State Records, the State Records of South Carolina, Journals of the House of Representatives. This is where they need to go in their particular state to get this information.
Oh, okay. Oh, the State Records of South Carolina. So what do you want me to read?
Scroll down where it says 20 January 1790, page 363.
By order of the House, Jacob Reed, Speaker, ordered that the message be sent to the Senate and that Mr. Hugh Rutledge and Mr. Dees do carry the same. The House proceeded to the second reading of a bill to incorporate the Baptist Church on Horns Creek in Edgefield County, state of South Carolina, when a motion was made and seconded that the bill be changed into an ordinance, which was agreed to. The ordinance then read through and agreed to. Ordered that the ordinance be sent to the Senate and that Mr. Simpkins and Colonel Anderson do carry the same. And then the House adjourned till tomorrow morning at 10 o'clock.
Scroll down. You see the blue section where it says a petition? Read that.
A petition was presented to the House from sundry free Moors, subjects of the Emperor of Morocco, and residents in this state, praying that in case they should commit any fault amenable to be brought to justice, that they as subjects to a prince in alliance with the United States of America may be tried under the same laws as the citizens of the state would be liable to be tried, and not under the Negro Act, which was received and read.
There you go. Now, go down a little bit further where it says Clarinda.
Clarinda humbly sheweth that your petitioners some year past had the misfortune, while fighting in the defense of their country, to be captured with their wives and made prisoners of war by one of the kings of Africa, that a certain Captain Clark had them delivered to him on a promise that they should be redeemed by the Emperor of Morocco's ambassador then residing in England, in order to have them returned to their own country. Instead of which he brought them to this state and sold them for slaves. Since that period they had by the greatest industry been enabled to purchase their freedom from their respective masters, and now prayeth your honorable house that as freeborn subjects of a prince now in alliance with these United States, that they be not considered as subjects of this state now in force, called the Negro Law. So they don't want to be subject to the Negro Law. But if they should unfortunately be guilty of any crime or misdemeanor against the laws of the land, that they may have a just trial by a lawful jury, and your petitioner as in duty bound with every prey. Ordered that they be referred to a committee. The following gentlemen were accordingly appointed: Mr. Justice Grimke, General Pinckney, and Edward Rutledge.
There you go.
So they okay, that just separates the two right there.
They gave them a status of white. This is common not only in South Carolina, it's common throughout the South. So your relatives may be classified as white, but they're not if you descend from some of these Africans that they call free Moors. This is the only law that these Moors run around here talk about, the Sundry Act of 1790, and you see this law was implemented in South Carolina.
So when they call them the Sundry Free Moors, what does that mean?
They're not slaves.
So the brothers that are walking around and calling themselves Moors, this is who they are then.
That's what they want to claim they are, but you see those Moors descend from Morocco.
Right. So they are not indigenous to here, because a lot of them, they call themselves the Washita Moors, the blah blah blee Moors. So they really not are indigenous. They're just trying to what?
Well, you see what it just said, right?
Right.
Now, I'm going to send you something else to prove blacks were slave owners. Read this document that I just put in your Facebook. Another one from the archives. Read this petition.
Petition details?
Yeah, read that.
And people are listening, if you're on Facebook, you can documents and I'll send them right to you. This is petition details. South Carolina, Charleston. You want me to start where? At the abstract?
Salutation.
To the Honorable William James, Waddy Thompson, Henry William DeSar, Theodore Galliard, and Thomas Waddles, Judge of the Court of Equity in the State, James Dobin. Filing date, January 25th, 1814. Ending date, January 25th, 1814.
Abstract. Go ahead.
Samuel Holman, a free man of color, asks that Anthony Chenette, his attorney and agent, account for the action while Holman was in Africa. Holman states that Chenette charged him $8,236 for sundry supplies of the domestic kind in 1805, having no suspicion then that the sum was incorrect and unjust. He executed the said Shanae a mortgage of 42 Negroes. In the fall of 1805, Holman entered into agreement with Frederick Tavel for a joint voyage to the coast of Africa, with Tavel advancing the necessary funds for the trip. To secure his debt to Tavel, Holman executed a simple indemnity bond for $12,000 that was secured by the same 42 Negroes already mentioned as having been mortgaged to Anthony Shanae. Prior to his voyage, Holman appointed Shanae his agent to transact his business during his absence. Charging that Shanae illegally seized and sold certain slaves, Holman avers that he has applied. Holman avers that he has applied to the said Anthony as his agent to make out a full and fair statement of all his transactions as his attorney during his absence. But the said Shanae hath hereto wholly refused and keeps your orator totally ignorant of the state of his property and funds in his hands. He therefore prays that Shanae be ordered to answer his charges and that he be decreed to deliver up to him the bond and mortgage. Holman also prays that the defendants not be allowed to molest, seize, carry away, sell, or otherwise dispose of any of the Negroes mentioned. He said bond and answer his charges that he be decreed to deliver up the. Well, that was the end of it. Holman also prays that the defendants not be allowed to molest, seize, carry away, sell, or otherwise dispose of any of the Negroes mentioned in said bond and mortgage. Result: partially granted.
Now, does this look like all Negroes, all Africans in South Carolina were enslaved?
Sure don't.
Many of these African Americans who choose to be African Americans, your African ancestors were slave owners in South Carolina. This is just one case. After the Civil War, laws were created called Jim Crow that stripped people of their property. Therefore, making the offspring think they never owned anything. That is the reason for Sherman going through the South, burning everything. Then they're going to reconstruct. Because the majority of the slave owners in the South, especially South Carolina, were not white. They were free Africans. And they wasn't the mulatto type. They were the black Sambo Africans that come from Africa.
So, Chief.
Slavery had nothing to do with color in the beginning. It dealt with capitalism. Jim Crow made it about color. That's why it was a rush to hang Negroes after slavery. Jim Crow years, they were hanging by the payload. Because probably some of them free Africans were giving them poor Irish and Scottish hell, excuse my word, in slavery, and it was revenge time.
Ooh.
You know, like he's saying it, go read the history of the congressional records. And as a Native American and an American Indian, I'm going to tell it on the black Africans just like I'm going to tell it on the white Irish and the German. You came here among my people.
Wow. So Chief,
yes.
So basically what you're saying, the story roots, that was
fabricated.
Fabricated. more to bring more confusion into the table, right?
Let me tell you what I had an ignorant brother said to me. Listen to me carefully, and audience, listen very carefully. This shows the ignorance in things. The brother said to me he was related to Jane Pittman. I said to him, Jane Pittman's story is fiction. She never existed. How are you related to Miss Jane Pittman? And that's a fictional character. How do your roots tie to her? She never existed.
I thought she did. Wow. Area code 205. You had a question for the chief?
No, I didn't have a question. I got knocked offline, so I wanted to call in so that I can continue to listen.
Okay. Chief, in these last few minutes,
yes,
tell the audience again how they can contact you and give us some closing thoughts. Ladies and gentlemen, Chief is going to be with us for the next 10 weeks on Thursdays. For any questions you may have, any questions any of your relatives may have, when you go back and study what the information that he shared, it's right in our face. And Chief, I want to thank you for sharing this with us. Give your address, give your information once again, and please leave us with some closing thoughts that we can take through the weekend and the rest of the week until you're back with us again.
On behalf of my family and my living spiritual ancestors that are still here, death is only a transition. Your ancestors, your mother, your father, your brother, your grandfather, or grandmother, uncle, or aunt, if you have consciousness to listen, their spirit lives and still here and communicate with you. That is one of the talents and ways of the indigenous people. I share this information because I know what it meant to me. And if I share with others, then they can have and know. This is nothing to charge for. Information is free. I'm just passing the word. Because I don't want you to be ignorant, and I want you to know. Because there's no greater feeling of knowing where you truly come from. I get tickled in my sleep at night that I can name 12 generations of ancestors. Knowing who you are.
All right, family. And for those that's in the chat room, we don't have many. We're actually going into overtime. You have like 5 minutes to dial in if you want to continue with us. That number is 929-477-3858. If you're in the chat room and you want to continue, we're going into overtime in 5 minutes. You need to dial 929-477-3858. Okay, family. So, again, that particular video, I only played 2 portions of it. I highly recommend you listen to it in its entirety. I think it's like 2 hours because he dropped a lot of more other jewels. It's called Chief Langley Speaks, Part 1, Indian Slavery and Racial Reclassification. It's off of the YouTube channel William Bell. Now, if you're trying to use the website or the email address that was referenced in this particular video, is an old video. I think it goes back to 2014. They are no longer valid, but Chief Langley is still on Facebook. He actually still has 2 Facebook pages up. So just look him up under Chief Langley, and it's the Yuchi tribe of Georgia. and you can contact him that way if you want to get in contact with him. He's supposed to be doing a seminar, him and a couple of other people, sometime in May, an online seminar to go over forensic genealogy. So if that's something that you're interested in, or if you just want to reach out and link up with his page, check him out in Facebook. That's the way to contact him, because the references that was given in the show, that particular website is no longer valid. So, okay. All right, so I'll pause in case Sis or Brother Sean, you want to put something on it before I give my 2 cents.
Mm-hmm. Well, we see that the Moors were slaves primarily in South Carolina. They got up out of their little situation and immediately turned on the slaves themselves. Wow.
Yeah, and it was interesting because when he talked about the African kingdoms setting up shop over here, okay, that kind of brought light as well. So you would think that as they were setting up shop, they put some of their own folks in charge, right, of these different areas over here, okay? So hence, that's where the indentured servitude title came into play, as it referred to Caucasians or white folks being in slavery, okay? And then when stuff started changing over, that shit was reversed onto them. So they became enslaved and was blended in or mixed in with the indigenous of this land. Okay?
That's what the old boy tried to claim.
Who?
The old boy and them tried to say, his great-granddaddy and them was King George and them, and, it's supposed to be their stuff all up over here. He made the deal with the Pope and all that. Old buddy.
Hoodoo?
Yeah, your boy.
Yeah,
now.
well, I kind of figured out hoodoo shit. I was looking at some ancient maps, and this was right before all of the fuckery that was going on behind the scenes came out in public. This was like a couple of months before. I so happened was looking at ancient maps just on some other venture. Shit, I can't even remember what venture I was looking on. And all of a sudden, as I was looking at these colonized maps and started to see the different nations, like we were talking about earlier, where the French had this territory, the Dutch had this territory, the British had this territory, then it hit me. I said, oh, shit. That's where is claiming this lineage to the Blackamoors folks. It is about them coming over here from the beginning, taking land. So, yes, you're absolutely right. I kind of picked up that card right before the shit hit the fan with the rest of that fuckery with him, with the whole fraud. And ironically enough, it was some brothers that were Moors that came to the indexing. And he made a statement. Hoodoo made a motherfucking statement about the Louisiana land. About that Louisiana land. Him holding the title. It wasn't even the title. What did he say? Patent. Him holding the patent. And earlier, Badachi, and I am a fucking witness. He argued them people up and down. And they're like, no, I don't care what you say. She got the paperwork on that. And so he was going back and forth with them saying, no, he got the paperwork. Well, after the fact, after all of the fuckery started coming into play about all of his shit being false, it was brought to light, and Brother Sean, you probably know this fucking story better than I do, because I got it. I heard it like piecemeals from other people and was able to finally put it together. Those same Moors were actually there for him to show them physical proof of these motherfucking patents and all of that other authority and fuckery he claimed he had. And he never produced the proof. And that's when that group of Moors kind of broke off and went back and let their people know that he could not prove what he said. They purposely, and he had made arrangements for them to come to that indexing to show them the proof. But when they got there, they never saw the proof. Okay, but to get back to the story, it kind of fits in perfectly. That same lineage, he can go on and claim that motherfucking bloodline. That his actions show that he's a dirty Moor. They definitely show that he's a dirty Moor. But hopefully you see how far back and how deep that whole Moorish story goes, because Chief Langley, what kind of hit me over the head when you hear the Moors talk about the whole, what do they call it? Is it the Sultan of Morocco? And how clearly in the particular record, it shows that that was a totally separate nation. And their status of that Moor was under that fucking empire in North Africa. It clearly once again distinguishes that it was not about being over here on this land. Everywhere it is documented that when you speak of Morocco, when you speak of that Moor title, you are talking about North Africa. It's in the same congressional records. Yeah, they recognize them as the Moors. Now, don't get me wrong. They recognize them, but that is not saying they have citizenship or ownership in this land. That is giving them that title and recognizing them being under the crown of Morocco, who the corporation had an agreement with. Okay? And that is also part of that agreement, how they were given, they could claim that status of white to get privileges. Okay, so that kind of out of that video knocked me over the head too, of this whole, Moorish land and always been here.
Yeah.
Go ahead.
That brings up Noble Drew Ali too. Isn't he out of South Carolina?
See, I don't know. I can't speak on Noble Drew Ali. He is? I didn't know that.
Yeah, he's out of the Carolinas, because it was called the Carolinas. I think it's South Carolina. So he was brought, and his mama is supposed to be an Indian, and this is from dark. Huh?
She's
a Cherokee. Yeah. And he ran away from home, according to Dark Man X, I heard today. So if the Moors were brought here as slaves, which is what they said, that's interesting.
Right.
And they try to give somebody else's nationality that they don't even have.
That's my fucking point. No, that's not directed towards you, sis. That's my fucking point. How the fuck you gonna give me a nationality and you don't have it? Not on this land. You have it attached to North Africa under that Morocco agreement. Now, again, that has nothing against, if that's what people want to do, that's not my problem. That's not my business. I don't have nothing against if that's what folks want to do.
Wow.
But
that's
not
crazy.
be deceived. If you go up under that status, you are North African.
Right. And then, of course, you got that Noble Drew Ali charter. What does he have a charter over? These lands? Can't be. Because they say he has a charter over most of the states.
Well, they got to produce it then.
Mm-hmm.
They got to produce it, and it's got to tie back, right?
Right. That's from what I just heard, that's kind of like on the impossible side of life. What he just read out of that congressional record? How did he get a charter? He said he got it from Cuba. Yeah, okay, Cuba.
Right. Right. Oh, yeah,
Wow.
that is. Okay, now I know the story you're talking about. He went to Cuba, and the charter was drafted up, woo-woo, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Okay, well, produce that.
Yeah.
And, show what that charter was over.
Wow, that is. I knew that was crap. You have to have
that
it.
was
Huh?
that was how he was allegedly able to go to the UN, because you have to be recognized by a recognized nation.
Yeah, well.
In order to go to the UN.
And then they say that's all our credit. That's crazy.
But the thing is, ain't nobody been able to prove that Noble Drew Ali said or wrote nothing.
Any of that. That's true. That's true.
Ain't no recordings of him. There was cameras and audio recorders around during the time.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
So
that
they somebody else.
He was killed because he was Aboriginal, and he didn't go along with the plan, so they killed him.
They said that Master Far and Muhammad was a part of that took over the Moors after he was killed.
Well,
now it's interesting.
Sarah Muhammad is the one who founded the Moors.
That's right. That's right. So we're gonna actually do a show in a couple weeks. We're gonna have, and Darkman X. Damn, we must be on the same wavelength, because I promise you, the same exact time he put that show out, I had just started researching on this topic. So when I saw him put out his show, I said, well, God damn it must be time to put this show out. So we're going to do a show on the secret society.
Mm-hmm.
We're going to bust a lot of people out. It's going to be a lot of hurt motherfucking feelings, because all of this stuff was started from a couple of sources.
Right, that's what he said. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, because they all, and we knew this, actually, Sis Divinity and I, when we did a reading on Elijah Muhammad's book, The Fall of America.
I remember that show, yeah.
And,
I remember that.
A couple of brothers called in, and shit, they helped me to the game about that whole Fard Muhammad stuff, et cetera, and how all of these groups spawned out of that. So, yeah, we're going to actually do a show on the secret societies. I'm going to attempt to kind of go through all of them, okay, because the Moors, the Masons, the Knights Templar, the Boule. We're going to go into all of them, and your mouth is going to be dropped open when you find out the source of it. Okay? The Moors have a lot of power behind the scenes. A lot of power. And, a lot of the brothers that's, in it now and promoting it, I'm not too sure they really know how deep it runs. But you better believe some on that higher up food chain, they know exactly what is going on, because all you have to do, Chief Langley just proved, just do some simple research, pull up some ancient maps. They want to always talk about congressional records, but the congressional records we pull, they do recognize them, but they recognize them being tied to Morocco, which is separate from this land. Okay?
Exactly.
But, all of that still goes back to, at the end of the day, switching motherfucking identities, blending in to inhabit this land.
Mm-hmm.
But everybody was granted their own land through their lineage for a purpose. And it's a vibrational energy thing, like the brother that called in earlier saying this whole paperwork, paper trip thing. That's why we're so effed up today. It's based on energy and vibration. And everybody running around with paperwork, believing what brother such and so said, and pulling out the act from da-da-da-da-da-da, and even twisting the fucking paperwork. Okay? So now we're in the golden age where the vibratory energy has changed. You can't hide these motherfucking lies no more. No stone will be left unturned. Everything is talking. Because everything has always vibrated. But it was forced to a lower vibration level, even us, because of the suppression that mother was under. Now that shit is lifted. So everything is talking. You can't get away with no motherfucking lie now. And those that vibrate with truth, which truth is a higher vibration, are going to know truth when they hear it. Those that aren't ready, that want to stay in the matrix, in the lower vibration, then they're not going to get it. It's just real simple. We're making the shit more complicated than it needs to be. That's why at the end of the day, this is still about you mastering self. And those that have mastered self and have made the decision to vibrate and rock with Mama Earth will be the ones that just keep moving on to turn the shit around, because we don't need everybody. All you need is Mama Earth. The shit's gonna change regardless. Don't matter about reclassification, what this group say, what that group say. It's all being straightened out already. And trust me, the supposed motherfucking gatekeepers, them bitches know it. They are making arrangements behind the scenes to move their people back to where they're supposed to be in a hopes to survive the shift and to avoid karma. Okay. Alrighty, so with that said, we do have a little more time. I do want to get into a little bit of another person to kind of link up with from a material perspective, is Chief Warhorse. Now, Chief says she's out of Louisiana. Okay, she has a bunch of videos, on YouTube. I would love to know how to track her down as well. She is a chiefess, and she drops a lot of knowledge. So one of my YouTube channels that I rock with, Tyrone Street, I'm telling you, family, we're all vibing on the same wave, because Tyrone Street usually puts out a lot of metaphysics works, puts out a lot of body image stuff, puts out a lot of Brother Panic and some of the other master teachers on the spirituality side. But this particular channel so happened to put out a very good segment of Chief Warhorse. So I am going to, I got to pick and choose, y'all, because there's 3 parts to this. Okay, I'm going to start with the first one. Hopefully we'll get into the second one. So here we go.
I know. Okay. All right, Linda, I'll let you go next, and then we'll let Chief have it and take us from there. Go ahead, Linda.
Well, my mission in this is to thoroughly and intrinsically connect this to the education community with people who feel, not because my way is the right way, but because it's the truth. And we want the truth to come out as historians. So it was truly a gift when Wes introduced me to Chief, to find out that everything that I was always, for lack of a better term, I'm just going to say this. I hear African Americans, black people especially, say, I have Indian in me. And in my mind, I would always say, no kidding. You should know that you have it in you, because my great-great-grandfather is Cherokee Indian. So I was a member of a congregation last week that's called the Association of African American Museums. I am thoroughly involved in civic engagement with my community and the community at large in general. So I really want to disseminate information, and to not only to disseminate it, but just research to find out the truth, so that the world will know that there are people indigenous to America. It's not fiction. It's not something that's make-believe. It's the truth that there are black ancient Indian tribes. Okay, so we have people who have researched it. At this conference that I attended, I connected with Dr. Thomas Durant, who is a retired professor of African American history at Louisiana State University. I've connected with various other professors who are interested in telling this story, inviting you to conferences so that we can begin to really make this an intrinsic effort among the education community. So with that said, Chief, I want to ask you, how do you feel that I can go forward from here to implement my mission?
Okay. To get to that point, I need to step back a point. Okay. The hardest part I've seen in my fight, and I'm the chief of the tribe, is when you come up against people of color as well as European descent, and you say Indians, they're looking for the Bill Cody Long Range of Tonto style thing. And when you actually show them that the indigenous people were actually my color, as I have a habit telling people, are cocoa brown, or a brown piece of leather well put together. I have a lot of ways of using slangs to tell people that we are still here because we were not roots. We were here before DeSoto and Christopher Columbus. You have to be strong to make it through those disasters. During Katrina, I told them Katrina was not a Category 5. My people had been came through some Category 5s, and we survived them. So Katrina, to me, was going to be an easy thing to survive, because when you're hit by a category named DeSoto, Category 5, and it lingers around for 400 to 500 years, steady beating on the shore, and it just won't move. That's a disaster. Not a disaster that just come and go, but a disaster that still lingers. Then when you have a person like George Washington, that was a Category 5. He hit, and you're still lingering because he's still on shore. Okay, so that's 2 categories sitting on shore at the same time. I have Christopher Columbus, Category 5, still sitting on shore, beating up on us. Okay, so then I have Andrew Jackson. Can that be a Category 10?
Yeah.
Okay, because if I could rank him, he's a 10. He's still beating on us.
Yes.
None of these European storms have moved. At least Katrina hit ashore, did the damage, and moved on. Yeah. These categories continue to beat today. I wish it was drum beats, but it's not. It's not something you can dance to. It's something that you have to duck and dodge and constantly try to stay out of the way of the debris that it blows. Is that a good way to describe it?
Excellent.
Some of the debris that these categories have blew upon us, yes, you can help. But the first thing you have to go through being classified is crazy, because the United States have fixed it in the United States where whatever is not by their rule is crazy. So we have to take those abuse. That's part of some of the debris that's along the shore and still hitting around. A lot of the universities don't know about us because when they did write the truth about us, it was covered in the basement. So it's still down in the basement, okay? A lot of the truth was in the St. Louis Cathedral. Where did they put the records? A lot of the truth was in the Cabildo. Where is it? A lot of the truth is inside the tombs of the graves that's at St. Louis Cathedral, because they have a lot of Indians buried in there too. The bricks that built St. Louis Cathedral, my people made those bricks. The bricks that built the tomb in the older graves came from my people. Those categories was not only able to blow debris, but it was also able to cover things up. Like Katrina blew a lot of rubbish that covered up things. You know, that sludge that was left in your house and on your ground. Some of the sludge of this storm that I have to deal with is, am I this color as an Indian because of African descent? Or am I this color because this is the color of my ancestors? Well, the truth to that lies with the anthropologists, if they tell the truth. Because as they dig into the grounds, they have found people and they know they look like I look. But do they want to be politically correct as a white man to stay in standing with his white man? Or do he want to just let the truth lie in the basement? If you would look into the older court records of Louisiana, you'll find my people there. But it be looked upon by some people as Europeans, because the white man duplicated every last name he gave to us after being forced to take a family name. He duplicated those same names. So now, then you could easily say, well, it's not the black greens, it's the white greens. It's not the black Dupree, it's the white Dupree. But I was always told the proof is in the pudding. So in my family, we didn't tell the white folks all our business. So when they stole our identity, mispronounced it as Choctaw, they would come back into Lacombe, see our ways of living, and then they would mimic this back in Oklahoma. We have to ask, as historians, who signed the Dancing Rabbit Treaty and some of the other treaties? Research their name and see if the people that's in Oklahoma, I'm going to get real controversy. Let's see if there's really Native Americans that your tax money is paying for today, no matter what color you are. I said, if the government want to really know who's been ripping them off, check out and see who's inside that pudding. Because what's in the pudding sure ain't chocolate. It's all vanilla. Okay?
Chief, and I'm going to say this for our viewers, that we have the number up because I'm always being told that there's not enough time for a call, so you can begin calling now if you so desire. But also, Chief, I want to say this to you, and I understand that I have come from a particular time zone that, because I was raised by Garveyites and nationalists, I remember that when blacks used to claim some heritage of being Indians, the response used to be, yeah, anything but a nigger. But then as I grew, I learned that the Indians we were seeing on TV were not representative of the indigenous people of this country. And when we began to look at the indigenous people of this country, they began to look like black folk. And when you told us many times and several times in the history of our relationship that the whites came in, infiltrated, stole it, and moved on. And that was, that was really enough for me to begin to dig and learn and find out exactly what is going on. And you mentioned, and so did you, Brother Roderick, about people returning to their own. And this is extremely important that our audience understand. Now, you've had communications from people who have seen this show from New Orleans, from other parts of the country. And you wanted to talk a little bit about that this evening, so we'll get into that.
To what you're saying, what you were doing, Wes, what you were doing, Ms. Hill, is cutting into that pie or that pudding. You're showing the truth. Like you said, you was in an engagement the other day and you exposed some things that was accepted, and some may have been rejected by us, but it was the truth. And this is what you have been doing. People are looking at it now in a different way, and I'm glad you said about the time and era. Some people were ashamed to even say they was Native American again, especially living in an African American community, because then they told me they was looked upon as being a traitor or trying to be something that they were not. But then they knew their grandmother was an Indian. And some of these callers, when they called me, I explained to them that what we're looking at here is a denial that is coming from the inside now, not from the outside. And we need to challenge United States on that. And United States need to answer us on that. How can I be one drop Indian, okay, and be 99 drops European, and I can be classified as an Indian, versus I can be 99 drop Indian, 1 drop black, now I cannot be an Indian. Are y'all with me? And this is what this blood quorum thing they have used against us. That, to me, should be illegal at this day and time in the United States. And the reason it's not illegal because it hasn't been exposed enough. And a lot of people do not know through the media and universities the discrimination and racism and prejudice that Indians face.
Okay, family, I'm going to play part 2, but right quick, I just wanted to point out, again, that's Chief Warhorse, and I pulled this particular video off of YouTube channel Tyrone Street. But I just wanted to point out real quick when she was speaking on the proof is in the pudding, and the United States need to take a look at where their tax dollars are going to the folks that have the classification status as Indian. It goes back to what I talked about at the beginning of the show, where Trump card is doing just that, because he has putting legislation forward to strip those living on those reservations that is federally classified as Indian of their benefits. Okay, so I found that very, very interesting that when I ran across this video this week, that jumped off with Trump card starting to strip them federally recognized tribes from taxpayers benefits. Okay, and as I stated before, he out the gate back when he had his casino in Jersey stated that those people claiming the status of Indian do not look Indian to him. Okay, so before I go into part 2, sis or Brother Sean, did you have anything you wanted to put on it?
No, I'm good.
Okay.
You keep going, sis.
Okay, all right, here we go. Here's
today. When I say Indians, I'm not talking about Oklahoma. I'm not talking about a lot of these tribes, and I'm going to be honest with you, here in Louisiana. Those are tribes put together underneath Andrew Jackson and underneath the Indian rights law. I'm talking about indigenous Indians who picked up the name Indian as a tag by Europeans.
Just like nigger.
Thank you.
That's right.
And by giving us that tag, you stole our real identity. Because a swap took place.
And that's my point, Chief. Excuse me. That is my point. I don't know if I made that clear when I made that little statement in the beginning. When I hear my people of color say, I have Indian in me, that's why my reaction is like it is. Really? Well, why don't you find out about that?
Because the United States have fixed it for you.
You know,
our people are on the internet.
Think that.
He calls me all the time. Like he said, he's out there. He calls me all the time. Chief, I found these people. Would you talk to them? You know, I'm like, Roderick, some of them have lost their marbles. You know, and I'm just being honest, and I'm a truthful person. I said they lost their marbles. Because what they don't understand is the United States not fixing to give us United States back. Okay?
We're conquered.
What I want to know is where do we get the government-to-government relationship we was promised under these lying treaties? You understand what I'm saying?
Yes.
And where do we get as a nation to be able to teach our people within their own culture? Where do we get to enrich ourselves, not only financially, but spiritually and physically, without the United States hindering that? Roderick had someone to call me a couple of days ago, and he said, what are your greatest interests? I said, well, one, I would like to be able to farm the land again. I would like to drink clean, clear water again that's healthy. He said, I would like to be able to ride through my town, or my people ride through their town, and not tell me that they got to look over their shoulder because they saw a white police car. And I ain't talking about the car being white, because the white police in it.
In it, yeah.
I said, and another thing I'm fighting for is that we as a nation have a place of governing that is represented and recognized by the United States government. They said, well, that's federal recognition. I say, no, that's not. That is a God-given right. Okay, a God-given right. Because even the people that's in churches of whatever race, they keep singing about the 12 tribes of Israel. Or they keep singing about Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob. Well, everybody didn't come from Jacob.
That's right.
And if they did, that means everybody ought to be black. Because Jacob was married within his tribe. People that looked like him. He married his uncle's children. Okay? So, when we sit here, we won't even tell the truth about what Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob look like. So then I have to go to mine, like I told this caller that come from you. How far back you think they've been stealing our color and race?
Thank you.
And do you think they're going to give the real people back their race? No. That's something we have to stand up. We have been allowing, like I was telling you before the show started, we have allowed people to make us accept things. When the Europeans have come here, whatever they don't like, they write a law. And they stick together and they push it through.
That's right.
It's time we, you know, don't get mad at me because I had a gentleman call me one time. He says, well, how can you be a chief? One of Roger callers. How can you be a chief and be a woman? I said, how did you get here without a woman? Took a woman to bring you in this world. And you showed me another way a woman didn't lead a man in here when she led you into life.
That's right.
Okay? So next thing, I challenge my men of color to give us the respect that God gave us right to. He made us the one to bring about you. That doesn't make us disrespect you. That doesn't make us behind you. God put us in front. He put us here to bring you forth. Now, as a woman, do I respect my men? Yes, they're the strength of our country. But the United States found a way to break them down, too.
That's right.
I hear people talking about deadbeat dads. Well, let me name y'all some deadbeat dads as historians we need to talk about. Who's paying for Andrew Jackson's deadbeat grandchildren, great-grandchildren, and great-great-great-grandchildren, and great-great-grandchildren?
An entire family.
Who are paying for these illegitimate
That's right.
children
That's right.
that white men made here?
That's right.
When an Indian had more than one wife, and even the Bible, Jacob had more than one wife, and he took care of them all. He took care of children. He was not looking for somebody else to come feed his children.
That's right. But you see, you're militant and you're an activist if you talk about these things.
But this is tribal.
That's the way they look at it.
Let's be tribal truthful. So
let me interrupt for just a second, if you don't mind, because I want to let our audience get in on this if we can. I want to ask you to turn your televisions all the way down, talk to us directly through the telephone, listen through the phone. We appreciate you watching. We want to know what your question or comment happens to be. Caller?
Yes, Brother West?
Yes.
Yeah, this is Brother Warren here.
Hey, it's good to hear from you.
That I don't want to be rude or disrespectful, but I kind of come from the position you grew up in because the Garvey era. I identify as an African American, identify with my African ancestry. When I hear my relatives who do genealogy talk about a Native American past, I'm not interested because I feel that a lot of these things are still attempts on our part to escape our African heritage. Even if it were the case of Native American ancestry, I am black because I am African, not because I'm Native American. And the institutions, the African American family, the church, the civic, social organization we developed saved my life and many other black folk life. And so people have the right to identify with whatever they want, but I feel that this discussion among our people tends to get us off track as to our reality that we deal with in the world, and that we are oppressed because we are an African people.
Everybody wants to respond to you, Warren, but let me be the first one. You know, I come from the same venue that you are in today, and believe me, my sentiments were the same. So let me try to quickly give you a response. We celebrate, and we can openly celebrate our Africanness with our brothers who have come from Africa but stayed here on this continent and made this continent home for thousands of years. We celebrate the fact that we were able to do this as a people. And we celebrate it because it shows us how great that we really are. I look at Chief here. I, myself, personally, am an African. She's an African, too, but she wants to talk about her achievements on this continent, and I'm willing to give her that. So I see it as a celebration of us showing our greatness and how we have influenced and conquered the entire world without destroying the world. Linda?
I want to say something. You know I can get long-winded, but I'm going to try to make. I'm going to try to make this really, really quick. I'm going to I want to address the Bible aspect of it. Okay. I've been going to church all of my life. All of my life. I cannot wake up on Sunday morning and not go to church. I come from parents who just groomed me that way. But it amazes me at how many people go to church and don't really realize what they're listening to. They don't read the Bible. They don't understand the dynamics of the military. It scares me to know that we have a general population out here who vote. And if you walk into a mall with a microphone and ask the average person, and I'm not calling people ignorant, I'm just saying we need to know how we're functioning in this society. Ask a person, where is the West Bank? Where is the Gaza Strip? Where is Damascus, the place where Paul was on his way to?
Yeah.
Who are the people that lived on the West Bank? Who are the people that lived in the Gaza Strip? Where is the Nile River? Where is Iraq in relationship to Iran? And these people cannot tell you. They don't even know the natural dynamics of Iraq and Iran. They don't know that in Golda Meir's regime, This is when, the Iran started to look like a box, and Iraq looked like a box with a little thing hanging off of it, and it's the same way in the United States. That Louisiana just naturally looks like a boot?
Yes.
You follow me?
Yeah. Chief, I want you to respond to him.
Brother, I would like to say this to you. I'm not trying to change anyone's belief. A lot of the calls I get from around the country, I address some of the calls like you were just saying. I'm not trying to change your belief or your race, but I am saying for the last several hundred years, you've been on my land here. And what I am saying, be at least a little appreciative that when the slaves were running from their slave masters, we opened our doors and villages for you to be here today to tell me you from Africa. So, thank somebody from giving up everything they had because we believed in God, and we feared God, and we opened up our doors and villages. We fed your people. We took care of your people. Same thing I would tell the Europeans when they ask me, what are you worried about? We're the people you base your Thanksgiving off of. We gave you everything and you gave us death. You gave us bloody trails of tears. Well, okay, African Americans have even given us a bloody trail of tears. You know what I get from my African brothers and sisters? That we opened our doors and gave to them life. You know what they say? Why are you worried about that now? You ought to embrace being of Africa. Well, I've been here for thousands of years. Now, brother, for me to go to Africa and tell Africa I'm a Native American, I have met with a lot of friends in Africa. They accept me as chief of this nation. India accept me as chief of my nation. Other countries do. Why can't my brothers and sisters of Africa here be more graceful and help us the way we help you all?
Warren?
Well, I disagree with her historic interpretation of Native Americans being saviors of those 12 million souls from Africa who were brought here, who saved this land. This Louisiana colony was saved by the Africans from growing rice, and the Native Americans participated with the Europeans in capturing Africa who were brought here, who saved this land. This Louisiana colony was saved by the Africans from growing rice, and the Native Americans participated with the Europeans in capturing Africans as slaves and also using them in the slave trade. And I just disagree with her historical interpretation on the record. I identify with those 12 million Africans who were brought here and have the strongest soul and refuse not to die.
All right, Warren. Before I'm gonna let Roger. He wants to handle up on you in a minute, but I'm gonna invite you. We ought to sit down here and just have an open debate one day. I'd like to, to book that up. So you think about it. I'll call you and see if we cannot schedule that. All
right, Brother West. I listen.
Okay, Brother Roger.
Well, the first thing I want to say that we all are one people. Now, we might be subdivided into different names under Australians, Libyans, Puerto Ricans, Haitians, whatever. We all still one people. If we say that we are Shatta and we are Native Americans and we've been here on this land, that's who we are. Now, I can give you a brief history on how the West Africans came over on the boat to South America and set up civilization. It's been documented that the stoneheads are still down in La Venta, down in South America. Those, they call them Olmecs. The Olmecs mixed with some of the Chinese invaders that were coming in through the Bering Strait. And we mixed together and we made what is called the so-called Native American now, which is the red man.
That's right.
That's going around perpetrating on our property. Now, what you had done is we gave them parts of the land to civilize. I mean, not civilized, but
inhabit.
Mm-hmm. And we mixed in with those people. But you had the Europeans that came in and took it away from all of us through trickery, through different laws that that we could not live up to on their monetary system, through the forms of unjust taxes.
So what you're doing is you're actually giving us the history of integration and how integration has always been detrimental to the black man, be he called indigenous to this continent or any continent. But before we go, we want to hit
one thing quick before he leaves.
Go ahead.
Let's look at the census that's coming out. First, my people were under Indian. Then someone come along and say, well, we're going to take them, we're going to move them again. We're going to make them mulatto. So some of my people got trapped back there under Indian while some moved into the mulatto era. Then when the white man seen that wasn't going to eliminate enough of us, then he moved us from mulatto. Then he moved us to colored. I can show you how I got where I'm at. So then my people, some of them got left into the colored zone. Then they moved my people again into Negro, black, and African American. All I'm asking, my blood kin, I'm not asking you to change who you are. I'm looking for a Pacific people that's lost here in New Orleans that have the same blood lineage that the two of us have, that got lost through the census. Like this time, last census, we were Native American. This census, we are going to be American Indian. You with what I'm saying? In each era, we lose people.
Why don't you just say Indian? Why do you want to be American Indian?
They done changed us again. Yeah, now they have us American.
You want to be indigenous, period. We've got another call. We've got another call I want to get to. I want to ask the caller to turn your TV all the way down, talk with us directly through the telephone. We appreciate you watching our story. What is your question or comment?
Praise the Lord. All glory to God. Praise Yahweh Elohim. In the name of Yahshua, a.k.a. Jesus Christ. But look, this is basically what I want to say. I'm not going to keep you long.
Okay.
I'm the disabled vet that called a couple of times. Now, I believe, and this is not really through history, reading, or anything like that, is in my spirit. I feel that we are the original people of the universe.
Yes, sir. Thank you, my brother.
God used us. If you just look at our hair, you dig?
I hear that. And I understand where you're coming from, and we all tend to agree with you, my brother. We are the original people, and we appreciate you watching. We want to move on. We've got another call. We want to try to get them in. Caller, talk to us directly over the phone. We appreciate you watching. What is your question or comment?
My brother, hello, Brother West.
Hey, how you doing?
This is Louis Harding.
Yes, sir.
That I'm saying, that's why it's been said that there never was such word as segregation, and there never will be no integration. But we are headed for what is known as amalgamation, where everything goes back to its original color, its original beings. And this is where we at. We have been misled, but what the sister and brother is saying, Africans came here long years ago.
Yes.
Long years ago. They came here and was hooked up with Indian tribes long years ago. And this is what I see and understand. See, my mother, she was a African, she was sort of Indian. As I'm looking at this sister right here, on my mother's deathbed, she looked just like her. Had the plaits and everything. You can see it coming back out of her. And this is what I know for a fact. All right, my brother. Thank you very much.
Hey, appreciate you
Bye-bye.
calling, brother. Thank you.
You know, Brother West, we allowed the white man to come in and just assume our identities. They came into Egypt and they assumed the identities of the Egyptians. They came down into Puerto Rico and assumed the Puerto Ricans' identity. Now they come in and they're assuming the Native Americans' identity. They're setting up tribes. They're getting government money. They're the thieves.
Oh, yeah. No,
they're the biggest thieves that's going around.
Can I say something?
Yes, right here.
Right now, to the brother that called in earlier, there are land papers before slavery in my people's name here. How was it? Because when the Europeans came here, what Roger was talking about, we gave a lot of people some spots to settle. But they took those spots and wanted bigger spots. My people right now, the Shatta, they took on the end from our people, I'm talking about the end of the big cake, 25 million acres of land by removing my people from here to Oklahoma.
Mm-hmm.
That was the last of their land. 25 million acres of land, and it was people that looked like me. What Andrew Jackson did was he appointed some Europeans. I want you to know how I'm here, brother. My grandfathers were generational of chiefs. I come from a line of chiefs. I'm from a royal family of chiefs. What the Europeans did was took my people, took the women and the children, and some European that Andrew Jackson was friends with, appointed them as chiefs, left the original chiefs back here, took the white chief that he appointed, which into Oklahoma is, as you know today, as Indian Territory. Indian Territory was set up by mixed breeds, okay?
Yeah.
The people that signed the...
Okay, so we're running out of time, so we'll continue next week, and again, next week we will actually have the author of 103 Facts About the Black Indian, which is Brother P. Canyon. And really quick, if you do want to pick up a copy of his book, it's $25. You can reach out to him at 706-461-2853. That's Brother P. Canyon. If you want to get the 103 Facts About Black Indian book, his number is 706-461-2853. So he will be here next week with us for an hour. We're going to pick up where we left off with having a conversation with him, and then getting a little bit more into the book, and also more into concluding some of the videos and some of the articles. So I'll go and let's go into last words. Sis, did you have any last words for the family? Uh-oh.
Did she drop?
She must did. Okay, Brother Sean, you had any last words for the family? I had to check. I thought I had dropped.
No, I'm here. I'm sorry. Are you there?
Yeah, we're here. Did you have any last words for the family?
Oh, yeah. I enjoyed that first video a lot, and it made my heart, happy to know that our ancestors are here protecting us and guiding us through this madness. And then the second video gave me pause, because this is what we're up against. Everybody say, well, we're all that person. They're what they say. Those are constructs that the government gave us, not real things. So,
exactly.
The nationality of African American and all that kind of foolishness. They don't know history.
Right.
They wouldn't say that kind of stuff. They wouldn't say that at all if they knew the truth.
That's
but
right.
Anyway, they need to study more. So I enjoy the chief. I enjoy both chiefs. I enjoyed the videos. I mean, maybe if I want to buy the book, hope anybody.
I highly recommend folks buy it. I personally think it's a collector's item. That's just me, but I'm sorry, sis. Go ahead.
No, I'm good. And this is making me better by listening to the things that people say about what we are doing now in this day and age. And the vibration, hurry up, get rid of them. That's all I got to say.
Absolutely.
So we get to where we need to be.
Absolutely. Brother Sean, did you have any last words for the family?
Hit us up on the Truth Uncompromised Facebook page. We can continue the discussion.
Absolutely. So, family, we will be back next week, and we are slated to have Brother P. Canyon on the show, the author of the book 103 Facts About the Black Indian. He'll be with us for an hour. Again, you can reach out to him yourself to get a copy of the book, and we'll pick back up with going through the rest of the facts in the book, as well as some other information on this reclassification and getting a little bit more into the videos. So, again, I want to thank you all so much for hanging in there with us on this series. I personally think that it is very well worth it. I do want to thank all of the trailblazers that are bringing this information forward today, particularly for my generation. So I want to thank the Dark Man X, Sis Phoenix, and Dane Calloway. I want to thank Chief Langley. I want to thank Chief Warhorse as well, and Brother P. Canyon. So with that said, love you very much, family. We will be back